Hey y'all, I'm just setting up the live stream, making sure the chat replays and all that. Just give me a second. Take me to the horn town. Summertime, summertime, maybe we can fall in love. Summertime, summertime. It's basically summer where I'm at already. It's hot. 100-degree weather. Summertime. Take me, baby. All right, let me see. Hold on, I don't see the chat yet. Let me refresh my screen. Okay, here it comes. I can't believe it's true. You say. Y'all remember that song, Summertime, Summertime? That's for my Gen Xers, baby boomers. Some millennials might know that song. Hey, Essie. Hey, it's your night tonight. We got Jupiter going wild in the house, bad robot. Speaking of bad robot, oh my goodness. Let me talk about this AI for a minute because it's getting crazy out there, and Pluto in Aquarius is really bringing the AI to the forefront. So sometimes I'd be, on Instagram, just going up my Instagram feed, and I'll be seeing like certain pictures. Like the other day, I saw that it was a bunch of pictures of these tropical birds, but I could immediately tell that it was fake. Like I could tell it was AI generated, but some people in the comments couldn't tell. And I was like, damn, this is getting crazy because I'm like, this is like misleading. It's like false information. And honestly, some things that have come up on my feed I thought was real, and then come to find out it's AI generated. And I'm like, this is going to turn us all crazy. Like, we're not going to know fact from fiction in a minute. We're not going to know what's real, what's AI. And this is just getting started. So imagine like a few years from now, how sophisticated and advanced AI is going to become. I'm not ready for it. I'm telling you, I'm just not built for the future. I'm not built for all this technology. I'm kind of like scared because I'm like, again, like, this AI is taking over. And another thing that I found recently is that people are creating YouTube channels that feature these songs that are hip hop songs, but they are AI generated to make it sound like they're from another era, like they're from the 60s or the 70s. And honestly, some of these songs sound really good, but it just again shows you how advanced this AI is becoming. Cause I'm just like, yo, like there's this one, like, Wipe Me Down by Little Boosie and Webby. Well, there's a guy that made an AI generated version of that song that's supposed to be from like the 70s. And I ain't even gonna lie, it sounds pretty damn good. It'd be like, how's it go? He'd be like, cause I'm home, wipe me down. Cause I'm home, wipe me down. Cause I'm home. I'm just like, yo, this is crazy. So yeah, just I don't know if y'all are prepared for this AI stuff. It is off the chain and it's going to get even crazier. But yeah, check out some of those songs. And they'll even have thumbnails that make it look like the person's from the 70s singing the song or the 60s. And I'm just like, they are tripping. But yeah, so I wanted to talk about the AI with Pluto and Aquarius. And again, it's just going to become more and more advanced. We're not going to know truth from lies. Already, the media does a good job of fooling us to a certain extent, but it's going to get even worse. SE said a lot of the commercials on YouTube are AI generated. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't see the ads on YouTube because I got YouTube Premium. Because I'm like, shoot, I'll just pay the money every month so I don't have to see these damn ads. And then, like, when you have YouTube Premium, I don't know if this is true for regular YouTubers, but no, I think anybody could go on YouTube Movies, and every now and then, like, they'll be releasing movies free that you can watch on YouTube. And I swear it's because they know that shit's really about to hit the fan, so they're trying to placate us. They're trying to like give us some stuff. Like, here's this movie. Like the other day, I saw Alien, the movie Alien, the first version, the first one, which I think is the best. Now that's free on YouTube. So I was watching that. I was just watching the Mirror Has Two Faces because that's free on YouTube. I have the DVD, but that movie features Barbara Streisand and Jeff Bridges. And I like the movie. I don't know if y'all ever seen it, but it's really good. It's about growing older and dating. And Barbara Streisand's character, she's kind of like a spinster, still lives with her mom, really hasn't been lucky in love. And actually, her sister, played by Mimi Rogers, married her ex-boyfriend. So that's another like gut punch that she has to deal with. But anyway, she meets Jeff Bridges, who's a professor like her. And his whole goal is to try to avoid romantic love because he believes it's an illusion and that's how you get hurt and stuff. So he's looking for a woman that he's not physically attracted to and where there's not going to be any sex in the relationship. So he chooses Barbara Streisand's character. And when she finds out that he don't want sex and he's not attracted to her in the physical sense, like, that hurts. That's another gut punch that she has to deal with. But she continues to see this guy. And at the end, everything works out and stuff. But I'm just saying, I'm like looking at it from a different perspective this time around. I'm like, I wouldn't have tolerated that mess. The minute he would have been like, oh, I chose you because I was looking for somebody I wasn't attracted to. And then there's no sex coming out the deal. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have lasted. But she ended up marrying this dude. They have a sexless marriage for a while, and then finally towards the end they break up, and then they get back together, and then they start the romance part. But I couldn't tolerate that. I can't abide by that. Some guy choosing me because I'm basically helping him to be non-sexual. I'm just like, get out of here. I'm just one of those people. I'm like, if I'm going to be in a relationship, sex automatically has to be part of the deal. I'm like, why be in a relationship then? I'm just like, shoot. But anyway, hey Tara, we got Red Bunny up in the house, Dr. Ken up in the house, Urban Truth Seeker 82. Hey Abu. And speaking of The Mirror Has Two Faces, because that movie is really about, again, the struggles of getting older and being in the dating game. And thankfully, I don't have no desire to be dating anybody right now. And I'm not exactly satisfied with the way I look. So to me, it's a win-win. I'm not really exactly happy with the way I look. And I don't want to be in a relationship. I'm not trying to meet anybody. So I'm like, I'm good. I can continue to work on myself and not feel like pressured that, I'm not looking well and all this type of stuff. And my children, not really my son, because, sons don't really want to see you with a man. But my two daughters, it's like they still got hope for me with men. I'm just like, whatever, that's y'all, it's y'all time to date and all that stuff. Let me just be an old spinster at home and just be about my work and stuff, because I can't take another letdown. I can't take any more issues where I feel like my self-esteem is suffering because I know he looking at my flaws and all that. I just can't do it no more. Maybe I'll change in a few years or something like that, but I just can't. But again, speaking of, before I get into the main topic, speaking of The Mirror Has Two Faces, let me just bring up this recent story about somebody that we know, and some of us love, some of us might hate. But I think it's a shame what's going on. So let me just share my screen and let's get into this topic real quick. All right, let me see. Okay, can y'all see the picture on the screen? I'm waiting for it to pop up on my end. Called it, you said buy a fucking dildo and you're good. You know what? I don't even want that no more. Honestly, I'm good on that. Which is sometimes it be scaring me. Like, what's wrong with you? What's happening to you? But I think it just means that I'm at a point in my life where I'm more on the spiritual end than the material. Okay, so you see it. How come I can't see it on my end? That's weird. It's like maybe I need to refresh my screen. Hold on. Let me close this out and pull it back up. Okay, I see her. Old Vivica. I shouldn't say old, but that's about the topic. Like, I know a lot of y'all seen that interview she did. Who was she with? Hoda, the interviewer. But since she did that interview, she's been getting a lot of flack for what she said. So that's Vivica back in the day when she was in her prime. And this is Vivica when she was at the BET Awards when 50 Cent was flirting with her. So she had this dress on, and 50 Cent said something like, "Damn, Vivica, I love the dress," or something. He said something about the dress. And that's why you see Vivica right here just beaming with pride, classic Leo pride. And she all giddy and stuff because 50 said, he looking at her and he digging her and all this type of stuff. So, Vivica did have it going on back in the day. And she was able to, grab a lot of men's attention. 50 Cent right here. So here she is with 50 Cent when they were dating. I think this was the MTV Awards. Vivica giving off this, Malibu Black Barbie look right here. I'm not really digging that look on her, but hey, it got her through those times. What was this, the early 2000s? But anyway, yeah, so she dated 50 Cent for a while. 50 Cent, basically dumped her. And it was unbeknownst to her, according to Vivica, that they had broken up. She found out through a friend who had saw some interview that he did on the radio or it was TV, and basically he was like, we ain't no longer together. I think his manager was basically like, look, you got to dump that broad because she's bad for your image. But you could kind of see in this picture right here that 50 Cent was like, she killing me, y'all. She killing me. I mean, I gotta be honest, Leo women can be a lot to deal with. They could be quite domineering, even when it comes to their men. They basically want to run the show. They're very expressive, very affectionate, and sometimes, a man might feel like it's just too much too soon. Because, Leo, they be full on with the romance and all that type of stuff. So you can kind of tell with his face right here that he kind of wanted out. Like he's looking like, damn, I made a mistake. And here they are right here. Same award show, but I just wanted to get the full outfit just to show, Vivica had it going on back in the day. I wouldn't necessarily say she was a 10, and I don't even like the rating system, but I'm just, expressing myself right now. But she had it going on. So here she is again with 50 Cent with the all black ensemble. I do like the all black look they both got going on right here. It is cute, you know what I'm saying? Here she is rocking one of the wigs that she be selling. Look like it wasn't put on quite right, but Vivica has always been challenged a little bit in the wig department. Not really when it came to like getting her own hair done professionally, but like when she puts on the wigs that she sells or those wigs, sometimes it's not a good look. Now here Vivica is today. This is how she looks right now and where she was giving the interview to Hoda, I believe. And I'm not sure if this was Good Morning America. It was one of those shows. But anyway, I think she still looks good. Vivica is going to be 60 years old this year. And I think for a 60-year-old woman, she looks damn good. Even with the extra weight she put on, I think she looks very good. So the reason why she's getting all this flack is because well, first of all, the interviewer asked her, what's up with the love department and all that stuff. And she was like, oh, yeah, I would like to find a man. And she was like, but it's kind of hard. My choices are limited nowadays and everything like that. And, they were just talking about dating. And she was like, she would hope to find a nice guy and all this type of stuff. Well, that sent the manosphere into a tailspin. And they were tripping. They basically were like, how dare she say she ready to settle down? And I don't even think she used the word settle down, because I believe that if Vivica had a chance to be married to the right man back in the day, she would have married him and they would still be married. But all relationships don't work out the way you want them to work out. So I don't think there's anything wrong with her still wanting to find love at age 60. First of all, she a Leo. Leos are always going to want to find love. It don't matter if they got one foot in the grave. They going to once, look, case in point. My grandmother, my beloved grandmother, rest in peace. She picked herself up a boyfriend when she was in her early 80s. My grandmother is a Leo, well, was a Leo. That's how they do. Like, they want that love. So it don't matter how old you get as a Leo, you still gonna want some love. You're gonna want some companionship. You gonna want somebody to spend the rest of your years with. So again, I don't see nothing wrong with Vivica saying that and feeling that way. And first of all, she, like I said before, I think she still looks great. So she has quite a few options in terms of older men, or men that are her age and men that are a little bit older, like a man that's like 65. She could even get with a 70-year-old man, because you got some 70-year-olds that still got it, that are still taking care of themselves, that are still active and all that type of stuff. She don't even got to go that far, though. She could get with like a 62-year-old, 63-year-old and be fine. And he would like be so attracted to her and love her and all that. But you have these men out here that are acting like it's a crime for an older woman to basically want love or want a relationship on one hand. And this is what makes me like really look at these men like, what is wrong with you? Like, y'all are crazy. So on one hand, they're castigating her for saying that she, is looking for love and she would like to, be with a man and all that type of stuff. But if she would have said, you know what? I'm at a point in my life where I'm good. I don't need a man. Those are the key words that make men lose their minds when a woman says, I don't need a man. If she would have said, I don't need a man, then these same men would have been jumping all over her, talking about, see, all y'all women are, y'all always talk about y'all don't need a man, but you're going to be lonely and you're going to be a cat woman and all this type of stuff. So it's like, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't as a woman. Period. And then when you get older, it gets even worse. It's like, how dare you think that you can find somebody at 60 years old? Hell, if she was 50, these men would be saying the same thing. So I'm just like, yo, a lot of these men, and I know it's not all men, it's these main men in the manosphere, these men that got these YouTube channels. I've heard some comedians making fun of her and stuff like that. And it really started to make me feel a certain way, I guess, because I'm getting older too. And trust me, I'm not even a big Vivica Fox fan. Like, I liked, her in a lot of movies and stuff. But yeah, just to hear all of this, these insults and, the shame being thrown at her just for saying what she said, I think it's unnecessary. I think it's just wrong. And I feel bad for her again, because she's a Leo. And Leos, they are very sensitive to criticism. And they're very much full of pride. So I could just imagine what she's dealing with right now, having to hear these, people talking about her age and all this type of stuff. You look good, Vivica. Don't worry about what these fools are saying. You look good, and I hope you find love. Dr. Ken said they didn't like the part about limited choices, hit dogs hollering, right? I feel you on that. Ellie said, if you got the juice, you will always have the juice, right? Tara said, my Leo grandmother is 92 and still talking about she needs a boyfriend. Like, what? Yup, that's how they are. Yup, for real. Hani said these men age shame 30-year-olds. Yes, they do. And they love to talk about, oh, she hit the wall. They love to use that term. And I'm like, why are these men acting like they are exempt from aging them damn selves? And the last time I looked around, a lot of men aren't aging too well. So I don't know where these men are getting these ideas from. Like, and they swear that men get better with age. I'm like, on what planet? Y'all better stop lying to yourselves, because number one, the first thing that usually goes on a man is his ability to either achieve or maintain an erection. So how do you get better with age when you can't even get a hard on? How are you better with age with that? The only thing that might get better on you is the money in your account. Otherwise, everybody starts breaking down when we get older. Stop acting like these men get better with time. They got that shit from Hollywood, from like Sean Connery and shit like that, still being in movies, and he's like 95 years old, still getting the women as James Bond and stuff. But I mean, that is a damn lie. A lot of these men be having pot bellies, and it don't even matter if they're naturally thin. A lot of them still will get a pot belly around age 50. But we're supposed to be all, we're supposed to be humbled all the time because we're women, and we're supposed to be so scared of turning 30 and turning 40 and turning 50 because these men won't want us. I'm just like, you know what? I don't want these men. How about that? And a big part of me, it does have, still have that ego thing, and can be very much about appearances. I'm not too crazy about being with some 50-year-old man who's sagging either. Like, while I'm sagging, you sagging, like, what we trying to accomplish together? Like, really? But yeah, I'm just like, whatever. But yeah. So here's Vivica Fox's chart real quick. Her problem, well, a big part of the issue is she got a Capricorn South Node. And Capricorn deals with age and getting older. So probably all her life, like all her adult career, she probably heard that clock ticking, like, okay, time is winding down. You're in Hollywood. You're a woman, not just a woman, you're a Black woman. So even when it comes to roles that she can play, that's becoming limited. The dating pool, it's limited, not just for Vivica Fox, but for all of us, because a lot of these men ain't worth a damn nowadays. But the main issues with, I just wanted to talk about some of the transits that she got going down right now that deals with this issue. So transiting Neptune is squaring her Mars and nodes right now. And Neptune hasn't even fully squared them yet, because Neptune is still in Pisces. It's at the 29th degree. So that square is there, but it hasn't become exact. That will happen next year. So it'll be interesting to see what Vivica is going through next year. If she meets a man during this time, it could be disastrous. While Neptune is squaring the nodes like that. Saturn was also, but about this transit, what Neptune squaring Mars and her nodes. This is basically people shaming Vivica for saying what she said about trying to find love and humiliating her, and mainly due to her age. Transiting Saturn is conjoined to her Chiron, 18 degrees. Remember, I talk about that 18 spiritual material conflict. And it can often deal with issues with money, but also issues just with the ego, issues with the material world. Like with the material world, yeah, you're going to age. You're going to be out of style at some point. You're not going to be as attractive as you used to be. So at this time, she needs to really cling to the spiritual side of that 18 and not give too much, importance in what these people are saying about her. So Saturn or her Chiron, this is further shame and humiliation that is hurting her. Trust and believe that she's hurting over this right now because Saturn's on her Chiron. Also, this is dealing with a case of ageism, with Saturn representing age. And it's like, yeah, you're shaming her because of her age. First of all, she can't help how old she is. And again, she looks damn good. But it's these men that are haters out here. And also time. People are like, you had all this time to find a man and now you want to find one? transiting Jupiter in Gemini, quincunx Capricorn South Node. So her age is the big topic. Big topic is that's Jupiter and Gemini for the TV interview. The age again represented by her Capricorn South Node. Now I don't know if the interviewer was trying to set Vivica up for. I'm sure she was, like, for ratings or whatever. But then again, turning 60 is a big monumental point in your life, and Vivica is turning 60 this year. So naturally, it would make sense that the interviewer would ask her a question like that. But again, I just thought that that's messed up how she's getting all this flack just for speaking her mind and telling the truth. It's just like, damn. But yeah, that's that Neptune transit, Saturn on her Chiron. Just sad. All right, so let's segue into the situation with this nut named Aaron Key. Hold on. And every time I see a picture of his face, I'm just like, ew, I don't like him. I mean, stop. Of course. All right. Here we go. I'm wondering if he has African origins because he looked like he could be from Africa. And I'm not saying that to mean anything in particular, but I'm not getting in that last name Key. I'm wondering where that comes from. Maybe he's from the Caribbean, like he got family from the Caribbean, or he has family from Africa or something. Because I'm not really getting like Black American, or what do they call it now? The FBA, Foundational Black Americans. All right, so let me pull up the story on him, and let me just read what's going on with this dude real quick. He got that smug look on his face that I can't stand. All right. Aaron Key, known as the East-Harlem Rapist, is an American serial killer and serial rapist who is responsible for 4 rapes and at least 3 murders of teenage girls in different street blocks of East Harlem, located in Manhattan, New York City, from 1991 to 1998. So he was born September 18th, 1973. That 18 says it all. Remember, in the past couple of videos I did about serial killers, 18 was one of the numbers that I pointed out as being one of the indicators for serial killers. So him being born on the 18th makes a lot of sense. All right, so on January 24th, 1991, Key, then only 17, killed a 13-year-old schoolgirl named Paola Ilera. He raped, stabbed, and strangled her. Subsequently, Key would stalk lone women, follow them to a secluded area, and rape them before fleeing. On September 13th, 1997, Key attacked 19-year-old Johalis Castro in the basement of her apartment building. He raped and smothered her, then burned her body while she was still breathing, possibly to prevent recognition. On June 2nd, 1998, Key raped and murdered 18-year-old Rashida Washington. In January 1999, the New York Police Department conducted DNA testing on the biological evidence found on Rashida Washington's body. The DNA was linked to 2 Manhattan rape victims in 1995 and 96 and led to the identity of the offender, Aaron Key, who was now 25. The NYPD put up a reward of $11,000 for any information leading to his arrest. Key now wanted kidnapped a 16-year-old girl named Angelique Stalling from her Brooklyn apartment and flew out to Miami, Florida, sparking a manhunt across the East Coast of the United States. In the weeks after, Key and Stalling rented many hotels, frequently moving from place to place around Miami. Miami police stormed his hotel room on the evening of February 19th, 1999. They rescued Stalling and flew her back to New York. Key was soon flown back to New York, where he was charged with the murder of Rashida Washington, the kidnapping and false imprisonment of Stalling, and 2 rapes from 1995 and 1996. Further testing of his DNA brought to light his involvement in the unsolved murders of Paola Ilera and Johalis Castro, as well as another rape from 1992. His trial started in 2000 with Key being charged in all 3 murders and 3 other rapes, to which he pled not guilty. During the trial, Key took the stand to make a statement in which he ranted that he was being framed and that the DNA testing was being used to convict him was fake, even though surviving victims identify him as their rapist. On December 16, 2000, the jury found him guilty on all 3 murders and the 3 other rapes. When the verdict was read, Key yelled, "Fuck all y'all," at his sentencing in January 2001. He made a statement and apologized for how he acted at his trial. He was sentenced to 3 consecutive terms of life imprisonment. All right, so he was one of the serial killers that I included in my sample, and he does fit the bill of serial killer energy because he has different placements dealing with it. He has his birth number of 18. Blazing Black Dolphin said he looks like Little Romeo. I can kind of see that. I can kind of see what you're saying. So this video has been sponsored by Essie. Thank you so much, Essie, for sponsoring this video. I enjoyed, I didn't enjoy reading the stories, but I enjoyed just looking for the aspects dealing with his situation and dealing with why he is the way he is. And you asked some very good questions too. So I have them answered here, but I'm also going to get deep into his chart, just detailing accounts of the story and matching it up with aspects and stuff. 17 is actually a blessed number, Felicia. It's actually very good, but it can produce issues with the father. It can produce issues with being under an illusion if you're not careful. Like if you're a woman and you date men, you got to be careful being a 17 because you could get with men who are misrepresenting themselves. But that's like the main issue that can happen. But on the positive end, like 17 is like really good. It's a very good number to be born under or to have as a degree in the chart. So Essie wants to know, what are the signs to look out for in terms of his behavior? Were there obvious clues this guy had issues in general and with women? Now, if we're looking at this guy on the surface, I would say no. Like there were no signs. He was the type of guy that could blend in with society. So remember I talked about how some serial killers, they're very unassuming. Like they could blend in with society. You would never know that they're the type. And even like if you go back to his picture, he doesn't look like a monster. He looks rather docile. I'm not really seeing like any like signs of depravity or anything like that. But what I do see with this picture right here, I'm seeing this degree of smugness. Like he's smug, like almost like he, not in a cocky way, but just in a way where like he knows he's intelligent and he's going to use his intelligence to his advantage, even if it's about manipulating others or what have you. But yeah, on the surface, I would say, even like in terms of most of his behaviors, I would say that no, you couldn't, there weren't obvious clues this guy had issues in general and with women until you look at his natal chart. But you know, most people aren't into astrology, so they're never going to look at the natal chart to see. But as soon as you look at the natal chart, there's one key factor that should have a red flag waving, a big red flag. And this is for all men that have this placement. If you're trying to date a guy and he has this conjunction in his chart, just be careful. So Cancer placements in particular. Now, Aaron Key had Cancer South Node conjoined to Saturn. That conjunction is a red flag when it comes to him dealing with women. Because number one, it points to mommy issues that he has. And his Cancer energy is afflicted by other energy in his chart. So already, if you see something like that, you should automatically say, he got mommy issues that's going to be projected onto the women that he deals with. Now, is it a deal breaker? I'm going to say no. And the reason why is because everybody has a story, right? So if you meet a guy, he has Saturn conjoined to the South Node. If he has a story that matches that conjunction, then you could continue to maybe get to know this guy, but I would still say proceed carefully, especially if Saturn and the South Node have, challenging aspects to other planets or points in the chart. Because what could be happening with Saturn conjoined to the South Node, it could have been he grew up poor, right? Because again, the thing with astrology, you got to learn how to paint pictures, like pictures of how things could play out with these aspects and stuff, or create scenarios, or say, okay, what would be the story of this right here? So let's say a man has Saturn conjoined to his South Node in Cancer. One of the stories that could play out with that conjunction could be he grew up poor, he was hungry a lot, and he lived in public housing, government housing, all that. That could be a way that Saturn conjoined to the Cancer South Node could play out. If that's the case, then you could say, okay, let's say he's telling you he had a decent relationship with his mom and stuff, but mom was always struggling. So once he tells you he had a decent relationship with his mom, and then let's say you meet his mom in the future and she seems good and they got a good relationship, then you can proceed and say, okay, now I know how that Saturn conjoined to the South Node is playing out. Now I can safely assume that he's not that bad of a guy. Yes, called SIDS. Bob Marley had Saturn in Cancer. Yes, he did. Yes. So again, we could look at certain placements and aspects in the chart and say that's a red flag, but then we could still give the person a chance. And really, but before we give our heart to them, we can just observe and see how this person moves. And that way we could determine if they're worth even getting more deeper involved with. So his Cancer energy is one of the obvious clues. And then he has an opposition between Venus and Mars, which is another obvious clue. And that's another red flag if you are considering dating someone. More so for women that are dating men than men dating women, and also gay relationships. But this could just be hard with relationships, period. Basically, it shows that the person is not relationship oriented. For a man that has this aspect, it's some predatory energy, or I'll say potentially predatory energy. Now, let's say you meet a man, he has this opposition, but he's not a predator. The way that can play out is he could always be on the prowl for women. So he could be a cheater, a serial cheater with that opposition, or he could have problems with money. Could be that somebody's always coming after him for money. Maybe he's indebted. He owes a lot or whatever. But just know that with Mars opposition Venus, if it's in a man's chart, and if he wants to be, I guess you could say, a man's man, then he's going to kind of look at women as beneath him. When you got that opposition, it's like he has to walk in front and you walk in back. You know how the Muslim men be doing with their wives. Instead of you walking by his side, you're walking in back at him. You're not his equal when you got that opposition like that. So again, be careful if you see this aspect in a man's chart, or if you see that he has Cancer energy and that Cancer energy is afflicted. You said, how did he build up committing these crimes? How did this start? I believe it started with porn and perhaps being rejected by a girl. Also, with his first murder, or first reported murder, I don't know, he could have killed somebody beforehand and we don't know, but it was more than likely his first one. Transiting Pluto was forming a quincunx with his Chiron and Aries. So I believe that Pluto transit helped to transform him into this monstrous figure, but coupled mainly by, the Pluto transit could also represent rejection as well, and that turned him into a monster. Not saying it's justified him becoming a monster because of rejection, but the rejection first started with the mother. What was his potential upbringing with his mother family? Was he born this way or groomed? Well, he definitely has mommy issues, and he wasn't living with his mother or his father for the majority of his childhood. So you already know there's going to be issues there. And especially because he's a Virgo. And you know what I say about Virgos? If Virgo doesn't have a decent or at least adequate upbringing, then they're going to carry those issues into their adult lives, because Virgo is a sign where things should be the way they should be. Like things are supposed to be ordered. Things are supposed to be in a way that is appropriate. So what's appropriate when you're growing up? To grow up in a household where mom and dad are there and they get along, and they are basically raising the child in the way that the child should be raised. If that doesn't go on, then the Virgo person is going to be affected throughout their adulthood. Now, they could go get some therapy, which they should, and maybe they can overcome their problems there. But if they don't get therapy, if they don't address these issues from their childhood, a lot of times they're going to be a problem for other people. So I'm looking at this as most likely he was born this way, and then the way he was raised just exacerbated it, brought the evil out of him. But I do believe that he was basically born that way. And maybe something happened while he was in utero. Like, remember with Richard Ramirez, his mom was working at that factory and she was breathing in those toxic fumes. Something could have happened with him in the womb that caused him to be born to be sociopathic or what have you. I wouldn't be surprised if there was something happening while his mother was, or it could even been a situation where mom didn't even want you. You know, I firmly believe your emotions and your mindset when you're pregnant will attach to the baby. I do believe that. So if you're depressed, if you don't want the child, but you're still carrying the child, that's going to be imprinted upon that child. So he may have never felt wanted by his mother, even in the womb. And of course, that can translate into resentment towards his mother and hatred towards his mother once he gets older. Now, how did he pick his victims outside of being young women? Were there specific traits? Well, his main target was young Hispanic girls / women, but I think he also raped a few Black women too. I think it was like 7 in particular, 7 altogether with the victims that we know of, 4 rapes, and then 3 rapes, murders. So, and I think the bulk of them were Hispanic girls. So remember I talked about targeting with Mars oppositions. And again, he has Venus opposition Mars. So he was targeting a certain type of woman or girl, because they were mainly girls or very young women. All victims were in his own neighborhood. Just what neighborhood? Was there a reason? Was he familiar with any of them? I'm glad you used the word familiar, because familiar, that is a term for Cancer. And he has South Node and Saturn in Cancer. So he basically clung to what was familiar. Cancer South Nodes will cling to what is familiar. They're not really comfortable outside of their, home base or their community or where they live. They like to stay where it's comfortable. So when he fled to Miami, it was probably scary for him being in that city. And I don't know, maybe he'd been there before, but I'm sure it was painful for him to have to leave. So I said he was familiar with some of them in terms of seeing them in the community. At least one of the girls lived in the same building as him. You also asked, how was he able to maintain having a girlfriend and commit these crimes? Was his girlfriend at the time a potential victim? So the reason why he was able to even get a girlfriend and maintain ties with this girl while he's out killing and raping other girls, that's his Venus in Scorpio trine Saturn and Cancer South Node. So the Venus in Scorpio alone enables him to operate undercover and keep a lot of things to himself, where his girlfriend would have no idea what he's doing when she's not with him. And I'm thinking, because Saturn's involved, he was most likely buying her things and giving her money. So he probably, sought her out because, she probably was vulnerable in some way. Maybe she didn't have much money. And next thing you know, and she probably had a broken home or, a tumultuous home life. So here he comes giving her money, buying her things and stuff like that, basically buying her loyalty. And yes, I do believe she was a potential victim. I believe he eventually would have raped and killed her as well. So she was rescued by the police. Was his intentions to hurt these girls and their mothers? Yes, he was projecting his hatred for his mother onto the girls and perhaps their mothers. What are some additional characteristics and signs this person exhibited that women need to know and avoid that may be subtle but serious red flags? So he had moon opposition Neptune, which is another aspect that should be a red flag for any woman that is looking for a man to date. If he has moon opposition Neptune, he might have some twisted ideas about women. He may not even really view women as human. Might even like that's like some sex doll energy. Of course, not for all men, but the men that have issues, that's like they rather, or that could show that they rather masturbate to women like in porn than deal with a real woman. Having a hard time connecting to women. It might even be confused by women, might even have a fear of women with that moon opposition Neptune. And then again, with Cancer South Node men, you got to be careful. Not just because they might have mommy issues, but Cancer South Node men have been known to be widowers. Like where their wife dies well before they do. So unless you want to be the dead wife, I would think twice about getting with a man with a Cancer South Node. And then a man that has afflictions between his sun and Mars, then that could be very challenging as well, because it can mean that either he's hypersexual or he can't control his animalistic drives. It can make him violent in some cases as well. Now, again, Aaron Key, from what was said in some of the articles that I read, was rather low key, very intelligent, was a computer genius. So he really didn't have these traits like that were explicit dealing with his depravity. Like, so he was the type that could fool a girl. And again, he wasn't bad looking. So I could see how he could fool some girls into thinking that he's a decent guy. And there's a lot of guys that are like that, where they look like decent men. They can, they can speak, they can articulate. They're very eloquent in their speech and all that type of stuff, but they're really monsters in disguise. So again, sometimes the red flags may be hard to see, but sometimes it'll be little things that a man says that could be a red flag. Like, even if a man says something like, I prefer a traditional woman. Now, in some cases, that could just mean, yeah, he prefers to be the one that, makes the money and she takes care of the kids and takes care of the home. But in some men's eyes, a traditional woman means she's going to be totally submissive to him. And basically whatever he says goes, and she really doesn't have any say in the matter. So some of these men, and I know there's some of these men in the manosphere, they want to take things back to when women didn't really have a voice and where we couldn't call the police on their asses when they hit us upside our heads. There are men out there that wish that we could go back to those times, but those days are dead and gone. And I know a lot of men are mad about that, because some men really don't want women to have a mind of their own. Some men really believe that women are just supposed to be for their benefit. And a lot of rapists have that mentality, like, you're just a woman, you're just here for my benefit, you're just here for my pleasure. Oh, you love the shade of blue, Jupiter? I do be putting thought into colors with the PowerPoint presentations. I'm just like that. I'd be like, what color should I use? All right, so here's his chart right here, September 18, 1973. Like I said, that 18 is a murderous number, and it can deal with extreme narcissism, egotism, hypersexuality, and also violence, conflicts with the mother and family, conflicts at home. So let's look at the other degrees that come into play with his issues with women, or just him being like the serial killer. I think it might just be his birth number now that I look at it. Yeah, so in terms of degrees, but his son is at the 25th degree. And like I said, I have seen that 25 come up quite a bit with serial killers. He has the classic Mars opposition that I spoke about. He has a planet on the south node that I talked about. A planet conjoined to Jupiter, not Jupiter, Pluto. So remember I said if Pluto's conjoined to a planet, that's one of the indicators. If a planet is conjoined to the south node, that's one of the indicators. And what else? Oh, and he has the Aries Libra opposition. Chiron and Aries opposing Uranus and Libra. And remember I said that Aries Libra opposition can deal with being on the hunt or seeking out your prey. It's representing conflict between the sexes as well. All right, so let's talk about his numerology. Birth number 18, like I said, one of the key numbers for serial killers. And 18 is a number of spiritual material conflict. So he's dealing with conflict between the spiritual side of life, the material side of life. Obviously, due to the choices he made in life, he was on that material side too much. Narcissistic. Now, Aaron Key, I believe he is what you would call a cerebral narcissist because he's very smart. So he was basically considered to be a computer whiz. He doesn't have really those features to be a somatic narcissist. The somatic narcissists, they are a lot of times good looking, are well built, got a nice body and all that type of stuff. The cerebral narcissists, they're like your geek nerd type, and they think that they are above everybody because they're so smart. So that's what he was. Egomaniac, violent, abusive, murder, hypersexual, problems with mother and family. His life path number is 11, that breaks down to 2. Conflict with mother, family, women, race, culture, and housing. Also, this can play out as repressed memories. The fact that he has the Cancer South Node conjoined to Saturn can play out as repressed memories as well. Also, 11 and 2 as his life path numbers compounds his Cancer energy, which just makes matters worse. So that 11, it produces both internal and external conflict. So he's not just dealing with conflict that he has in the outside world, he's dealing with conflict within himself. Now, this picture right here, one of his mugshots, now you can see the evil in him. You can see it with, he just got this look of like having a chip on his shoulder. I'm also seeing like this look of apathy as well, which you can see through that Mars square Jupiter and Aquarius that he has. Like he has this look like, fuck the world, don't ask me for shit. Everything you get, you gotta work hard for it, or whatever like that. He just has this look like, fuck the world, I'ma do me, I'ma get mine anyway, by any means necessary. He got that type of look. Sky Ride said he looks like the head of the science department. Red Bunny said, my ex used to say jokingly, a woman's place is in the kitchen, barefoot and pregnant. He thought his only job was to work and provide. Didn't work out too well for us. I see why. Because those days are over where we're just supposed to be relegated to the kitchen and the bedroom. Thule said, yes, you got to watch dark jokes too. Yup, most definitely. And even when it comes to some of what a man watches, like if he's watching, like, a lot of men like porn, but let's say he's watching some like porn that is a little too like, there's some elements of violence in there. That's a huge red flag. But honestly, I know a lot of people are into like the whole S&M, BSDM type of sex, but I can't get down with that because I be thinking that like low key you expressing that dark side of yourself that like could turn into a serial killer or something. Now I know a lot of people are into that, so I'm not gonna knock people that are, but for me personally, I don't know. And maybe because I got a Taurus South Node or something, I'm just like, I don't even want to think that you're capable of doing so or capable of killing me or what. Like, I don't find that sexy or capable of hurting me and stuff. I'm just like, I don't even want to go there. I like sex to be fun and fanciful where there's even giggling and stuff sometimes, and then sometimes where it's hot and heavy. But where I'm getting my ass whooped, I'm cool. I don't want to be handcuffed. I don't even want to be blindfolded because I'm just like, I don't know what you could be cooking up. But yeah. But yeah, here he is right here. That's when they put that 11,000 bounty on his head. So his son at the 25th degree of Virgo. 25, discrimination and analysis. Oh, the fact that he's a Virgo, that fits the mutable sign category for the serial killers. So 25 is about discrimination and analysis. So that helps him in terms of, computer science and all that. And it can make him very observant, very analytical, where he can really like just analyze people and like basically, see what they're made of or see how they move. But 25 Virgo is prone to mental health disorders, but it can also make it easy to deceive others as well. Case in point, Will Smith is a 25 birth number, and we all know how he really get down, but he's been able to deceive the majority of his fans for years. People really think Will Smith is this great guy that can't do wrong, but if you ask me, he is as big of a narcissist as Jada, if not even bigger. And there was something dealing with Jada that I was going to mention. Oh, that's for my Patreon. Okay, yeah. Because I'm preparing to do a video for my Patreon. Or I don't know if I'm gonna just do a little write-up about it, but yeah. But anyway, so it was said that he was reasonably articulate and clean cut. That's the epitome of Virgo, to be articulate and clean cut. So again, him just being a Virgo alone helped him to blend in. And remember, I said Virgo is integration. So he was able to be integrated into society, even though he was a monster. Insecurities. We know that Virgo has insecurities, and that's one of the telltale signs of a rapist. A lot of them have insecurities, which is why they rather rape than risk the chance of being rejected. Being anxious. And sometimes when you're anxious, when you got a lot of nervous energy, you could end up doing some things you shouldn't be doing. So I always say Virgo energy needs purpose behind it. It needs structure. It needs order. It needs something to do. It needs function. Like Virgo is about functioning. So you got to have something where you can function properly. Youth and innocence. This is a big one because remember about the girls he was targeting. Well, the females he was targeting, they were girls for the most part. I think the oldest was maybe 19. So he's basically trying to destroy one's youth and innocence. And it could be because his youth and innocence was destroyed when he was young. Also, Virgo rules chastity and virginity. And again, he may not have known whether these girls were virgins or not, but in his mind, he might see them and it might be, he might think, oh, the way she dresses, oh, I know she's a virgin. Let me go rape her. Yo, my cat, well, my daughter's cat was chew. I swear, cats love to chew on shit. Was chewing on my microphone USB thing. I know she was because that looked like little cat teeth marks. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted. It's Gemini season. But anyway, Virgo rules chastity and virginity. So he could have, looked at some of these girls and was like, I know she a virgin. I'm going to take it. I'm gonna get it before any other guy gets it. That type of stuff. Mystic's Muse said dogs like to chew on shit too. Don't I know it? That's why I don't have any dogs. Submission. So again, Virgo is the sign of submission, and that's what he's looking for. He's looking for submission, not voluntary submission, but forced submission. And systematic. Virgo is a sign about systematic things. So, rapists, they can become systematic in terms of their crimes. So I believe that's what he was starting to become systematic with it. Or where, they'll rape and then dump the body in a certain area after they killed them or whatever, or they'll do it in a certain way or have you. And then categorization. So again, put in people in categories. There's that girl. She just came home from school. Look at her carrying these books. Oh, she got the Catholic school uniform on. Oh, that means that she is, you know what I mean? That type of stuff. That type of twisted thinking, like, oh, all girls that wear Catholic uniforms want to be like, some rapists really think like that in some twisted way. Like in their mind, the girl is communicating with them telepathically, saying, yeah, come over here and violate me. So he has Sun in Virgo, sesqui-square Mars in Taurus. So this is where he has damaged self-esteem due to criticisms from father or other males in his life. Also, the sesqui-square can show where you lack self-restraint. So this could be lacking self-restraint when around youth, he deems to be his type. And with his Mars in Taurus, he's very sensual. He's very much about beauty. So if he sees a girl that he deems to be very attractive or beautiful, he is likely to have a hard time resisting. Destroying innocence. Again, with Virgo ruling innocence, virginity, and purity. So destroying innocence, virginity, and purity due to his own innocence being destroyed by a male. And again, I don't know if that actually happened, but that's more than likely what happened, because again, the sesqui-square aspect can deal with where somebody is not showing restraint. So this aspect could have started off with him dealing with an older male that couldn't show restraint when he was watching him or whatever. It could have been like a male babysitter or whatever. Oh, we got a birthday. Happy birthday, Ellie. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Yes. How old are you, Ellie? Unless you don't want to tell. We're all family here. So this also shows where he's leaving evidence behind. His actions betray his clean-cut image. It says right here, the 15-year-old victim survived to describe her attacker, a clean-cut young man, again, that clean cut, that's Virgo, with muscular build who had a grand opinion of himself. He told the victim she should be grateful to be raped by such a handsome fellow. He told me I was lucky, the victim said. So again, we're dealing with this narcissist, and I don't even really think he believed that he was handsome. He wants to be handsome. So he wants the girl to feel that way, even though she doesn't. And in his twisted mind, he's basically telling her that, oh, you're lucky to be with somebody like me, because who he really is not matching up with what his image wants to be, or what he wants his image to be. If you get what I'm saying. I know I kind of worded that kind of funny, but whenever you have aspects involving your Sun and Mars, like conflict aspects, like the sesqui-square or the square, a lot of times you are projecting this image that is betrayed by your actions. Like you're not who you really portray yourself to be. So like he might try to portray himself again like this clean-cut image and this stand-up guy, But then that Mars and Taurus can have him being like, you are this super sensual dude that can't keep your hands to yourself. Here he is right here. Now, this is where you're seeing more of the geek look out of him. Like I'm seeing it look like he just came out of the computer lab after, being on some weird ass computer game that he plays with his other geek friends. But yeah, so again, I'm not really seeing threatening looks right here. But I am seeing in this image, I am kind of seeing like where there could be some issues. Like he could be a little off. He looks a little too eager, behind the eyes. And actually, the more I look at his eyes, the more it looks like he could be plotting on somebody. You see what I mean? Do you see the plotting behind the eye? Like he could be plotting on somebody. Yeah, like I'm gonna get her. Like he got that look right now. Like I'm gonna get her. Yeah, yeah. Uh-huh. Yep. That's that girl that live on the fifth floor. Oh yeah, yeah. I'm gonna get her. He got that look right there. Jupiter said he gives me Charlemagne freaking the Breakfast Club energy. I'm done. You said coming out of Best Buy, right? Sky Ryan said he looks like he works at the Geek Squad help desk, right? I feel you. Bring back old school Western justice. All right, let's move on. Unfortunately, there's not many pictures I could find of this guy. But do you see what I mean when I say he's giving off an African vibe more so than Black American? Like he's giving off an African vibe to me. Either that or like West Indies. I'm not getting like FBA Foundational Black American. And it's not like it matters, but I'm just saying. So I wouldn't be surprised if he came from a family of immigrants, like from someplace like Ghana or something like that. Essie said, yes, I see that plotting look. He is calculating your moves with that look. Yes, and that's him being a 25 Sun in Virgo, that 25th degree, making him very analytical. He's scanning things, surveying the scene. Mm-hmm. Awkward Larry said, he from Ghana. Don't he look like? I'm just saying. Yeah, them lips. Oh, okay. Let's go back. Let's continue on. So he has a Gemini moon. And this Gemini moon is basically representing school age females. I swear, just like all of the girl, even the 19-year-old was in school for something. I think she was going to like fashion school or something like that, but they were all in school. Gemini rules school, moon is females. And this also, that Gemini moon makes them very crafty, very logical, very opinionated, and where he rationalizes his feelings and also where he could be duplicitous. He could be two-faced. So the Gemini moon also helped him. Remember, I just said those mutable signs, period, they are really good with being shapeshifters. So like during the day, he's at the computer, he's, working on these programs and stuff, and, he's playing video games and stuff like that. And then at night, he turns into this rapist. And with the Gemini moon, women are often on his mind. Now, let's say he was a regular guy with a Gemini moon. I would not trust him. Like, I wouldn't trust any man with a Gemini moon in terms of being faithful to me. Because a lot of Gemini moon men, they're going to have at least two women. So, yeah, I would not trust a Gemini moon man. And some of them feel like they got to be seeing multiple women at the same time. So if he was a regular guy, he still would be untrustworthy with that Gemini moon, especially because it's opposing Neptune. Also, that Gemini moon can be representative of an unstable upbringing or early home life. A lot of times, not all, but some people with Gemini moons will spend time living with relatives or extended family when they are growing up. So it says it right here. He spent most of his childhood in East Harlem and was living with relatives in same building as Paola Ilera in 1991. So living with relatives, and again, the fact that he was living with relatives basically shows you that he was not raised in a classic sense of a mom, a dad, and kids. So because he's a Virgo, that's a problem. He wasn't raised in that Leave It to Beaver home. See, that Leave It to Beaver show, it did a lot of disservice for a lot of people, because a lot of people believe that was the way families were supposed to be. And maybe so, but for the Virgos, them watching a show like that and then looking at their own dysfunctional family, that is just too much. And it's going to stay with them. So again, Gemini moon, unstable, early life. And in some cases, the Gemini moon could mean that there were several residences when you were growing up. Some Gemini moons, they could have split time between living with their dad, living with their mom. But in some cases, they could also be living with relatives as well. And that Gemini moon basically makes him for the streets. And it can promote that thug life. And he was robbing people. In addition to raping, he was also robbing and stealing and committing fraud and all types of stuff. So he was just the type of guy that felt like he didn't have to play by the rules. And that Mars square Jupiter has a lot to do with it, where he's not playing by the rules. He's being rebellious. He's being a nonconformist. So he has Moon in Gemini, trine Mercury in Libra. And this is one of the aspects that results in him being a computer whiz. So I do believe that, yes, he's very smart. Smart, but dangerous. Ease in recalling information, facts, figures, dates, etc. So this is showing that he has a pretty good memory when it comes to figures, data, all that type of stuff. And knowing that, does that really mean that you're smart? Let's talk about that real quick. Let's say you have a photographic memory and everything you read, you remember. First of all, Gemini, they remember a lot of what they read. They're really good. And they can sometimes quote things verbatim. And especially if you got Moon in Gemini, you could remember a lot of information. Case in point, my mom, she's an Aquarius with a Gemini moon. She used to have this job working for the government. Like, she was making good ass money, and all she had to do was sit in this room all day by herself. And she was reading magazines most of the day, Gemini moon. Gemini rules magazines and other publications. So she's reading magazines all day in this room. And every now and then somebody would knock on the door and they would ask her for some information that was in these boxes that were locked, or these cabinets. And because she had like top level security clearance with the government, this was like top level security information that was locked up. So people would go there and she had to memorize a number of combinations in her head. Like, they couldn't write this stuff down because it was that sensitive of information. So my mom was able to memorize all these combinations to these safes in her head. And I was like, that's so Moon in Gemini. But my question is, if you have a photographic memory and you can remember everything you read, and therefore you're getting A's on all your tests and stuff, does that really mean you're smart? Or does that mean you just have a good memory? I think some of these kids that are like straight A students, or the ones that get like the 1600 on their SATs, I think a lot of them, it just comes down to they got photographic memories and they just remember everything that they've read. Because I'm just like, sometimes I'd be really wondering, because how do you separate that? The kid that can remember everything versus the kid that's really using their brain to figure things out. I guess what separates the smart ones from the ones with the good memory is what can be produced. So if you invent something, let's say you invent some type of amazing software or app, that's showing intelligence instead of memory. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's more intelligence than memory. So I guess once you get out into the real world, that's when you'll determine how smart you really are. Like, what are you actually creating? And honestly, I'm gonna tell you, them little kids that be skipping the grades, they get on my damn nerves. I don't know why. But I'd be like, how is this even? Because, okay, let me just say this. You know, when you're going to school, right, as a kid, they make you think that you have to do things in this proper succession. Like you have to go to kindergarten, then first grade, then second grade, and you got to go through high school. And in order to go to college, you need to have a high school diploma. Well, how is it? And I'm sorry, Essie, I know I'm going on from tangents, but it's Gemini season. It's tangent season. How is it that you can have a kid that is getting their high school diploma and college degree at the same time? I honestly read an article like that like a couple of weeks ago. Or no, it was probably this week. Some kid, some little precocious kid is graduating high school and getting a college degree at the same time. I was like, huh? So they bend the rules for a few, but most of us, we have to do it the long hard way. I'm like, when do they, like, how do they have this stuff? Like, and where do you get in on these programs? Like, do these parents of these children that are skipping these grades have some inside information that we don't know? Like, I don't understand it. Make it make sense. You got 14-year-olds getting PhDs nowadays. I'm just like, what? Huh? Make it make sense. But yeah, I'm just like, and sometimes, Ellie, I don't even think some of these kids are that gifted. It could be the parents doing the work for them. You never know, because some parents live vicariously through their children, and they might be like, "Yeah, I want my child to be a genius or a whiz," but they're really pushing a child and they're doing stuff for them and stuff. Like the little kid that paid all the kids lunch debt. Here I am thinking with my cynical ass, I'm like, that boy didn't raise that money. I'm like, his parents paid that debt and basically let that boy be the champion, be the hero. I don't know if anybody heard that story, but basically a bunch of students owed $7,000 collectively in lunch money. So here comes this little kid. I think he's only 8 years old, and they're saying he raised like $7,000 and paid off the lunch debt. What 8-year-old kid you know is able to earn $7,000? A lot of adults can't even scrape up $7,000. Let's be real. But this little kid was able to get the money and pay off the lunch debt. And I'm like, whatever, good and well the parents did that and basically said it was the kid. But I'm just like, and like the kids on the social media is going too far now. Now parents are posting their kids on social media for no little reason. The other day, I'm on Instagram. There's this little baby. She's like maybe like a year old with a pamper on, and there's like, it looks like there's a ball in the pamper, but instead of a ball, it's like a bunch of poop. And the mom, she's posting this on Instagram because she thinks it's funny. And she's like, I thought it was a ball, but it's really poop. I'm like, so nowadays in the age of social media, everything has to be recorded. Everything has to be showcased, even poop in a baby's diaper. I'm like, come on now. So what? You're a mom. Like, join the club of millions of other women. Like, you're not special. But I'm just cynical. I'm just saying, and the more I look at this social media stuff, the more cynical I get. But then every now and then there is a cute video with some kids in there or a kid that's just so cute and adorable. And I just be like, oh, and I'll share it with my daughter. But yeah, some of these parents are doing way too much. All right. Sorry for the tangent. So could come across as charming, witty, engaging, and slick. So this is one of the aspects that makes him be able to look normal, maybe, be sociable, get along with, the majority of people. This could even help him out in prison as well. Ease in obtaining information about people. So this is like, again, he's looking at this girl. I wonder what apartment she lives in. And then he's able to find out and all this stuff. And he knows what time she leaves to go to school. He knows what time she's coming home from school and whatnot. Because I honestly believe some of these girls he was like watching maybe for a week or a couple of weeks or what have you. He could be a good impersonator. So this trying can actually be a little dangerous because this can enable a person to impersonate other personalities and they can fool people. It says Ace was his nickname, was personable, intelligent. So personable, intelligent, that's very much Moon in Gemini, Trine, Mercury, and Libra. Also, it says, known as a big talker, charmer, he was adept at computers. He claimed to be a rap producer, although there is little evidence that he did any work in that field. So him wanting to be like a rapper or rap producer, that's very Moon in Gemini, Trine, Mercury, and Libra. And then also him being a charmer, being a big talker, very Moon in Gemini, Trine, Mercury, and Libra. He could have really made something with his life, but unfortunately, he chose the dark side. Moon in Gemini opposition Neptune and Sagittarius. This is one of the most problematic aspects in his chart. So this is dealing with serious abandonment issues, starting with his mother. This also represents him kidnapping and trapping girls. Getting caught up in fantasy affects his mindset, and where he could start to have intrusive thoughts, which are coming from Neptune and Sagittarius. Remember, I talked about the fishbowl or video game existence with oppositions involving Neptune? Well, he definitely has that going on. Living in a fishbowl or video game existence, having these simulated experiences. So he's already dealing with that being a computer whiz. Like, I'm sure he was probably addicted to gaming, and, he spent a lot of time in front of a computer screen. And basically real life becomes a game, a video game, or it's like he's living in a fishbowl where only things make sense to him. Like, things don't make sense to people on the outside, but it makes sense to him. Like, these women owe him something, for instance, or where these women aren't really real. They don't really have, power of their own. They're just for his benefit. They're for his use. Cognitive distortion. More about this because I did some research into the psychology of a rapist. So there's this term called cognitive distortion that a lot of rapists, or you could say most rapists, suffer from. And I'm going to get deeper into that as we go along. But this is an opposition of cognitive distortion, especially with the moon being in Gemini. The Gemini is representing the cognitive, distortion is representing the Neptune influence. So basically, it means that he has a twisted way of thinking about women, with women being represented by the moon. Also, being in denial, dishonesty, telling tall tales, fleeing and hiding out. Like when he fled New York and was hiding out in Miami. Also, imprisonment, especially long-term imprisonment. But he most likely found it easy to adjust. Just put him in front of a computer and I'm sure he was fine. Aaron Key is every young lady's worst nightmare, New York Deputy Inspector Joseph Resnick said earlier this week. So him being every young lady's worst nightmare, that's represented by this moon in Gemini opposition Neptune and Sagittarius. And like, again, that moon opposition Neptune, that's like him setting a trap for women or girls. I need to really emphasize girls because, again, the oldest one was 19. Even though that's a woman, that's a very young woman. So also with this opposition, it says police distributed a wanted poster that included a sketch of the serial attacker based upon descriptions from the rape victims. A few days after the flyer went up in East Harlem, a telephone tipster suggested detectives should take a close look at a young man known as Ace, who lived on the 19th floor of Paola Alera's building. Cops soon established Ace's real name, Aaron Key, and the name rang a bell. So he lived on the 19th floor. He has Chiron at the 19th degree of Aries. So the fact that they had pictures up of him and then they get a call, that's that moon in Gemini opposition Neptune and Sagittarius. And a lot of crimes don't go unsolved because people refuse to say anything. The whole no snitching thing. And it's a damn shame because eyes are everywhere. People are always watching. When you think somebody's not watching you, think twice because there's eyes on you somewhere. That's how a lot of times there's witnesses when it comes to crimes and stuff. Oh, yeah, I saw him in the black truck and all that type of stuff. But not enough people come forward and talk about, suspicious activity and stuff. And, I'm not saying always be a snitch, but it seems like this person that made the anonymous call, they probably knew for a while that dude was, you know, violating and raping these girls. Telephone records reveal that in the days before she was killed, Joe Hollis had exchanged dozens of phone calls with a man named Aaron Key. Police spoke with Key, who said Joe Hollis Castro had been a friend of his girlfriend, Jacqueline. So Jacqueline is the girlfriend. So he basically escaped to Miami with another chick, not Jacqueline, I don't think. But let me double check. Now, he explained the flurry of phone calls by saying the two women had been planning a shopping trip on the day she was killed. Police interviewed the girlfriend who confirmed Key's account. So the fact that he was calling this girl a lot, that's his moon in Gemini opposing Neptune and Sagittarius, because he has this fear of abandonment. So he has Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. So this can make him have an obsessive compulsive mindset. And unfortunately, when I saw this aspect, I was like, damn, because my son has this aspect. But like I said, you could have this aspect in your chart and it not play out to that extreme like it is with Aaron Key. And my son, he has Mercury conjunct Pluto in Sagittarius. So the Sagittarius, is going to play out differently than this Libra. But yeah, when I saw that, I was like, damn. And I'm like, what's my son keeping from me? What don't I know about him? Like, what's going on? Now I do know that he was obsessed with video games, my son, growing up, but a lot of boys were. But he got out of it, thank God. He used to be obsessed with wrestling too, like that WWE stuff. Oh my God, I hated it when he was into that stuff. But he got out of that as well. So I'm seeing with my son that his Mercury Pluto conjunction is dealing with evolution. Like he's evolving in terms of what he's interested in. He's emerging into a new version of himself in terms of what is grabbing him mentally, his mental focus. So I'm like, that's good. And then one of his close cousins died when he was rather young. So that's that other manifestation of his Mercury conjunct Pluto. But for this guy, this is producing an obsessive compulsive mindset. And with it being in Libra, it's about women. And if it wasn't about women, it could just be about people in general. Like somebody with this conjunction in Libra could think that somebody's always out to get them. Now, in his case, this is him plotting as well. Remember, SCU was like, yeah, I see that plotting look in his eyes. That's that Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. Now, this can also produce a corrupted mind. So his mind could have been corrupted from an early age, and it could have been from a sibling, a relative, a cousin, aunt, uncle, because of the Mercury influence can also represent relatives and siblings. But it can also just mean that he came upon some stuff as a young child that he shouldn't have seen. Could have even walked into a room and saw two people having sex, and that could represent that Mercury conjunct Pluto and Libra, and that could have locked him in at that point as a child to be very focused on sex. And that's another thing. Like when I'm looking at this aspect, I'm like, oh my God, I hope my son ain't all obsessed with sex. It doesn't seem like he is, but I just hope he's not. And of course, I'm not going to ask him because I'm like, he's 21 now. I don't even want to go there and have that conversation with him. But I'm just like, but I do remember catching him. Oh my God. I remember catching him as a young boy. And again, this is just common with children. I remember it was maybe 8 in the morning and I'm still in my bed sleep. And he was on my bed and I allowed him to like get on my computer because he didn't have a laptop, at the time. He was still, I think he was only like maybe 8 or 9. And something told me to wake up and open my eyes. And I opened my eyes and it said something on the computer like boobies or something like that. And I'm like, you got the nerve to be on my computer looking at this stuff because you think I'm asleep. But yeah, so catching him in like little stuff like that, I'm like, that's very Mercury conjunct Pluto. And then the times he's been with his father, I don't know what the hell he's been seeing and stuff, unfortunately. But yeah, corrupted mind, criminal minded. And again, about my son, when he was very little, he used to always pretend like he was robbing a bank. Like when we'd be in the car, like if we go to the store, when we would get back in the car, he'd be like, hurry up. He'd be like, drive, mom, drive. He was like, I got the money, drive. So he would always act like he was just robbed a bank or some shit. And Set It Off was one of his favorite movies. But I'm saying all this just to show you like how this conjunction can manifest in a normal person like my son and also in a crazy person like Aaron. So my son still had that criminal mindedness even at an early age, but it was funny. It was joking. And that's his Mercury and Pluto being in Sagittarius. This dude ain't joking with his criminal tendencies because, again, Libra deals with other people and it deals with the opposite sex. So in his case, it would be women. Dark thoughts about people. And again, that could include plotting on people. Thoughts about raping and murdering women. And again, plotting, here it is. So the plotting look that's in his eyes, there it is right there, that Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra. And being investigated, being surveilled. Also, this is his controversial speech in court when he was like, fuck all of y'all. Questions regarding manner in which DNA was collected. Ellie said, okay, the first porn movie I watched was a 3-way between 2 women and 1 man. One of the women was recording him. I was shocked. All right, so there was an issue with the way the DNA was connected. More about that, or collected. More about that in a minute. So that Mercury conjunct Pluto is representing the questions about the DNA, with Pluto representing DNA and Mercury being the questions. Mercury and Pluto in Libra trine Jupiter and Aquarius. So this is another trine that deals with him being a computer whiz. Also, it makes him good at reading people. Outsmarting detectives, at least for a while. So he was able to like keep his cool and outsmart the detectives, which is very much this trine, while he was being questioned for other crimes. It says right here, as just one example of his alleged cunning, Key, a computer whiz, self-styled rap artist and convicted thief, repeatedly outwitted police attempts to get his DNA and link him to the attacks. Once, when he was held last year on a petite larceny charge, he declined a cheek swab. Cops lied that it was a tuberculosis test. He was like, y'all ain't fooling me with this. Claiming at the brink of signing a consent form that he was a Jehovah's Witness, opposed to invasive medical procedures. See how the Jupiter represents religion, so him claiming to be a Jehovah's Witness, that was one of the ways that he was able to outsmart or outwit these detectives. Opposed to invasive medical procedures, he suddenly got religious, one investigator recalled. And remember, I was like, with his moon in Gemini trine Mercury, he's able to really be able to impersonate others or like impersonate a certain character. So he has Mercury in Libra, quincunx Mars in Taurus. His self-esteem changes per the feedback he receives from others. Now, this part is very important because it really comes into play as to why he's raping these girls. So again, he has Mars in Taurus, which can automatically produce issues with your self-esteem and sense of self-worth. It can result in your sense of self-worth being torn down or being, damaged. And then with Mercury and Libra, that's representing feedback that he gets from others. It's representing his interactions with others. So it could just take one remark from someone for his self-esteem to take a dive. So it's like he's teeter-tottering back and forth between having a high degree of self-esteem and low self-esteem, depending on what people say to him, depending on the response he gets from people, depending even on people's looks, how they look at him and whatnot. And then also the Libra is representing the other opposite sex, women in his case. So this can be a certain look that he gets from a woman. You know how sometimes we look at certain men, we might like scrunch our face up, or we might just turn our nose up at. Every little gesture, every little look, every little sign is affecting him, basically, that these women are giving off. So in his mind, he's like, why even go through all this? I'm just going to take it. And that way I can have this high self-esteem. I can think highly of myself because I'm looking at myself now as being this dominant male, where I don't even have to ask women for their consent. Also, sense of self-worth lies in his ability to control or wield power over the opposite sex. Or you could say dominate. Key, 25, was nabbed in Midtown early last week on a misdemeanor petty larceny charge when he allegedly tried to exchange a used computer part for a new one, police said. So he's not that smart. At the time, Key's name was one of several police had gotten from tipsters in connection with a string of rapes and slayings in East Harlem. But without evidence, detectives had to let Key go. Later, detectives linked Key to some of the crimes through DNA and launched a manhunt. So the fact that they had to let him go because they didn't have enough evidence, that's this quincunx as well, because Taurus rules evidence. And with the Mercury and Libra, that's him basically being able, you could kind of look at this as like an alibi, but at the same time, it's like, oh, we got to let you go on a technicality because we don't have enough evidence. Even though we suspect that you might be the one, we have to let you go. It was not a DNA sample that was knowing or willingly given, said the Manhattan District Attorney, Robert M. Morgenthau, who announced the indictment along with Police Commissioner Howard Safir. So this is also representing the issue with getting evidence and how they had a hard time getting the DNA sample. T-square nightmare. Now, not all T-squares are nightmarish, but some of them are. And in this case, it is nightmarish in his case because women were raped and killed in the process. So he has Mercury and Pluto in Libra, squaring Saturn and the South Node in Cancer, and squaring the Capricorn North Node. So when you have a Cancer, Capricorn nodal axis, a lot of times you're going to have issues with both of your parents. Now, this can represent an intervention in the early home. So whenever you have that square between Cancer and Libra, a lot of times that can play out as an intervention in the home. CPS coming into the home, some type of agency coming into the home. It could result in you being taken out of the home. Also, this could show that he was mistreated by relatives and where he never felt accepted or welcome when he was living with relatives. Having issues with both parents. Both were more focused on the outside interests than his upbringing. So when you take the parents into consideration, and they're represented by the Cancer South Node, Capricorn North Node. Cancer South Node would be his mother. Capricorn North Node would be his father. The Mercury and Pluto and Libra in this case is representing outside interests that is preventing these parents, or where the parents chose not to devote enough time, attention, love to their child, Aaron in this case, because they were busy on the streets or busy dealing with other people, busy mixing it up, going to clubs, what have you. Speaking of clubs, does anybody go to nightclubs anymore? I'm too old for that. But what about my young viewers, my viewers in the late teens, early 20s, those in the late 20s, early 30s? Does anybody be going to the nightclub? I mean, obviously, y'all ain't at the nightclub right now because y'all in this live stream, but I want to know, does anybody still go to nightclubs? Is that a thing of the past, or are people still going out and having a good time? I know my 24-year-old daughter, she don't go to nightclubs, but she'll often like do something like out with friends, or like she might go to like some event. Usually she'll go to like themed events or concerts and stuff, but she don't go to nightclubs. Jupiter Going Wild said, I've never been interested in nightclubs. Ellie said, I'm done with nightclubs. Yeah, I don't even think I could stay and hang around for 10 minutes. I think I wouldn't be able to stand it. And then the way a lot of women dress nowadays, oh Lord. Dr. Ken said, I miss clubbing, had so much fun. I did have fun back in the day when I was in the clubs. Kauai said, I never went to a nightclub. Tara said, I try to go to the nightclub on cruise ships, but always end up in the bed. The last cruise I was on, the nightclub was popping. I was like, oh, it's like a real nightclub up in here. It was nice. But I see what you mean, because those cruise ships you make you tired. It's something about being on that water. You be ready to go to bed at like 10:30, 11. Jupiter said, I prefer a nice dinner date boat with some instrumental jazz music. Ellie said, I like bars and lounges. Yeah, I like a nice little jazz ensemble and stuff. That's nice. So he's having issues with both of his parents. Both were more focused on outside interests than his upbringing, which is apparent by this T-square. Also, this can show extreme subjectivity caused him to lack concern for the well-being of others. Basically, it's his world. Remember, I talk about Cancer and their subjectivity and how it's very hard for them to put the shoe on the other foot. It's very hard for them to think outside of their own little box or their own little world. And where you don't share a world with Cancer, you end up being in their world. So with him, he's dealing with this extreme subjectivity where he has no concern about the lives of others or the well-being of others. So this goes into play with how he can rape women, because he's not even looking at them as their own separate individuals. Once he sets sight on the girl he wants to rape, she's his, and basically there's nothing she could do about it. Like this T-square, the square between the South Node and Saturn and Mercury and Pluto and Libra, is showing where he's taken away the woman's right to choose. He's taken away her ability to consent or not, to say yes or no. He doesn't want her to be able to exercise that right. And that is one of the main problems I have with Cancer. Not Cancer people per se, but the sign Cancer, is because, again, it's very insular, it's very subjective, and basically you're in their world, not the other way around, or not where you're sharing a world with them. You basically have to step into their world. It's like you're in the belly of the beast, basically. A need to will control over females in order to avoid rejection. So again, this is showing that he's not allowing these girls to have a choice of their own. He's basically canceling that choice because he feels like he should have them, and there should be no disagreement about it. There's no room for disagreement or dissension. And being a loner. Hatred of, and they say a lot of rapists are loners. Wait a minute, what's going on? Oh, I see why you did that, Tara. Thank you. Hatred of women aims to punish them. The punishment is coming through Saturn and also that Capricorn North Node. Blames mother for his failures, projects his hatred and resentment towards his mother onto girls. So again, we're dealing with another serial killer with mommy issues. And just having Mercury square Saturn can cause him to be mean-spirited. So Mercury square Saturn is included in this T square. And like when you got Mercury square Saturn, it's like you do got a chip on your shoulders. It's like you could be mean and for no apparent reason. You could be bitter, very pessimistic, and suffer from depression as well. And this is a sexually sadistic aspect too. The sadism is coming through Saturn in particular, but also that Capricorn North Node as well. But the Capricorn North Node is also representing the police. And this T square is also representative of him being apprehended at the hotel. And this T square is a perfect example of how every action has a reaction, or every action has a consequence, cause and effect, because you can have a T square like this and it's representing the harm that you're inflicting upon others, and it's also representing the end result, you getting arrested. All right, more about this T square nightmare. It says surveillance teams tailing him decided to move in when he was located at the Sun Hotel in downtown Miami. 2 SWAT teams cleared out the rest of the hotel and found him in a room at the top floor. Now, Cancer rules hotels because it's a dwelling, it's where you stay, it's lodging. So Cancer is ruling home, but also hotels, buildings, anywhere where you basically are inside staying some type of, domicile, what have you. And again, the police is represented by the Capricorn North Node. New York City police believe Key is responsible for a string of slayings and rapes in East Harlem. Now, he has Venus at the 6th degree of Scorpio, and that 6th degree reinforces the themes of Venus. So it's just compounding that Venus energy. And then when in Scorpio, we're dealing with other people's money and possessions, and where he has the potential to rob others. Women are just sex objects. So some, not all, but some Venus and Scorpio men, like the first thing they think about when it comes to women is sex. I mean, that's probably true for a lot of men, actually. But, not all men are like sex obsessed like that. But a man that has Venus in Scorpio, he's likely to be very sexual and really look at women from through a sexual lens. Hatred or resentment of women. So all of these are that I'm listing here, they're just simply the potentials, the dark-sided potentials that can come from just having Venus at the 6th degree of Scorpio. So hatred or resentment of women, and where the rejection theme is strong. Also rape, murder of women as well. And choking and strangulation. So he was strangling, I think, all 3 of the women that he killed, I think. And Scorpio rules DNA, and Venus is evidence, so this is representing DNA evidence. Unfortunately, I couldn't find his birth time, so we can't talk about the house placements. Now, he has Venus in Scorpio trying Saturn and South Node in Cancer, and this can make it easy for him to attract females. So it's not like he felt like, oh, I'm forced to rape these women because I'm ugly and I can't attract women on my own, so I gotta just take it. No, he's not a bad looking dude, and this basically shows that, yeah, if he was a normal guy, he probably wouldn't have any shortage of women to date. This can also show ease in manipulating females. So if he was able to continue to commit these crimes, I wouldn't be surprised if he started to come up with some tactics on how to manipulate females into like tricking them into his car or whatever like that. Explains how he could have a girlfriend while raping and killing others. Venus and Scorpio, sextile Capricorn North Node. This basically is representing the DNA that he leaves behind and how it aids the police. And keep in mind, when you have a Capricorn North Node, that means that you're going to have some hard lessons to learn in this lifetime, like some lessons that could be that could impose some serious limitations and restrictions upon you. So it's almost like he came to this life to be punished, to do some stuff just to serve out his punishment, which is the Capricorn North Node. So that Venus in Scorpio sextile Capricorn North Node, while it can be for his benefit, it's also for the cop's benefit, which are represented by the Capricorn North Node. So again, it's basically showing that at the end of the day, he is going to rise to this Capricorn North Node, which is to have to be disciplined, which is to have to face punishment, which is to have to deal with limitations and restrictions. Of course, being in prison, that's all you're dealing with, limitations and restrictions. Venus is Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus, squaring Jupiter in Aquarius. So this is another T-square. So he got two T-squares in his chart. One is a cardinal T-square. The other one is a fixed T-square. Sociopathic aspect pattern. So the reason why this is a sociopathic aspect pattern is namely due to Jupiter and Aquarius influence. So both Venus and Mars are squaring Jupiter and Aquarius. So that's some serious sociopath energy with having both Venus and Mars squaring Jupiter and Aquarius. It also is showing sexual dysfunction. Like he may not be able to get it up unless he's taking it. And that's what happens with a lot of rapists. Like he could have like 6 women butt ass naked in a room and they're busting it wide open. And he may not be able to get it up because they're giving it up voluntarily. He'd rather take it. So this could show that, yeah, you got this sexual dysfunction. Like you can't even perform in front of women. You just got to take it. And it could be because, again, he could be intimidated by women as well. Being on the prowl for girls to rape at random. Predator aspect, especially when you take into account Venus opposition Mars. But I should say predator aspect pattern. But the aspect that deals with his predation is Venus opposition Mars. And with the square with Jupiter, this represents the times when he was able to refrain from being a predator. Remember when Dennis Rader, the other serial killer, the BTK killer, was talking about his cooling off periods? And he had something in Aquarius in his chart. It might have been Mars in Aquarius. I think it was. And he was talking about, yeah, he had these cooling off periods where he wasn't killing women or killing people, and instead he was masturbating and doing this other sick stuff. And that helped him. He was like, that helped humanity because during those times I wasn't killing anybody. Well, this dude is dealing with similar hookup with he has cooling off periods too, represented by Jupiter and Aquarius. So this can represent the times when he was able to refrain from being a predator, because remember, his years of predation stretched out. Like his first rape, I think, was 1991, and he didn't rape again until I think 93. So he did have some cooling off periods, and that is indicative of serial killer energy. So there could have been times when he was consumed with studying computer science, and that distracted him from hunting females, basically. Jupiter at the second degree. And he's an interesting case, because on one hand, I am seeing where he has this need to fulfill his sexual desires. But on the other hand, with this T-square, it's showing that there could be times where he's not sexual at all. Like he doesn't even have the sexual desire. So I'm seeing where his libido runs hot and cold sometimes, and it could be where his libido, it just comes upon him at times, and like where he feels like he has no control, but then other times it's like he has no libido at all. He's a really strange breed, because with him, I don't think the reason why he was raping was purely sexual. I believe it was more so he hates women because he hated his mother, so he wants to harm these women, but he's also getting sexual fulfillment at the same time. Jupiter at the second degree of Aquarius. So the second degree is representing females. So this is representing his huge sense of entitlement towards women / females. Also, this can manifest as a trumped up, phony persona. Remember, he thinks that he's the shit because he's so smart and he claimed that he's handsome and all that. But honestly, that's not how he really sees himself. It's a phony facade. So more about this T-square. It says Mr. Key, who was convicted of armed robbery in 1991, kept a low profile during his stay in Miami. So him keeping a low profile is very much dealing with this T-square. Also, Key was sentenced to 20 more years in prison for the 1994 rape of a 17-year-old girl in a Harlem apartment building basement. Key was recently linked to the case through DNA evidence. So them getting that DNA evidence, that's also Venus in Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus. Though the defense attacked the method used to collect the DNA sample, and this is the defense attorney is, in this case, Jupiter in Aquarius, basically saying, hold up, the way y'all got this DNA, which is shown through Venus and Scorpio opposing Mars and Taurus, was questionable. So though the defense attacked the method used to collect the DNA sample, he was still found guilty of the 3 murders and 4 rapes. So he has Mars at the 9th degree of Taurus, and that 9th degree reinforces the themes of Mars. You see how the 6th degree reinforces the themes of Venus. So he had Venus at the 6th degree of Scorpio and got Mars at the 9th degree of Taurus, and that 9 reinforces Mars energy. And then this opposition would be considered what you would call mutual reception, which intensifies the energy of that opposition. So Venus rules Taurus, but Mars is in Taurus, and Mars rules Scorpio, but Venus is in Scorpio. So that's an example of mutual reception. And when you have that in a chart, it basically intensifies the energy of that aspect. So he's very sensual in a bestial and impulsive way. Damaged self-esteem cloaked with egotism over his looks. Also, this produces a strong drive for validation. Again, I'm just talking about Mars at the 9th degree of Taurus. And where he could be destroying that which is valued, like destroying these girls that are valued. His name is part of the evidence that the police stumbled upon. Mars and Taurus square Jupiter in Aquarius. Why is this going back into time? Okay. So this could show that he could go overboard when it comes to his actions. A grandiose sense of self. Remember, the girl told the police that he was like, oh, he told me I was lucky to be getting raped by him, by such a handsome guy. So this is basically representing his grandiose sense of self. He's thinking he's better or pretending he's better than what he actually is. Also, this can show where he can fly into rages when things don't go his way, sexual perversions, and dismissive attachment, which is another psychological term that describes rapists and their personalities. So dismissive attachment, that's what this is playing out as. More about that in a minute. And where he can be aloof. And this could be an indication of a brain disorder. Remember, I was saying that I think he was born this way, basically born to be a rapist. But I was like, also his life circumstances basically just brought it more out. But this square can be indicative of a brain disorder where the wiring in his brain is not functioning as it should. But again, I don't see that as an excuse, even if that's the case. But some of these rapists do have disorders of the brain. And keep in mind that Mars rules the brain. So he has Mars in Taurus trying Capricorn North Node. So with this is basically a sure thing. Like when you see this trine right here, this is like, okay, the person say they gonna do it and they do it. Person say they gonna like achieve something and they do it. Like, and it can even show that they won't even attempt to do something if they don't know that they can do it. So for instance, that can basically go into his choices in terms of his victims. Like he's not going to approach a certain girl that he thinks he might have to struggle with. He's going to make sure it's a sure thing. Can appear normal and unassuming. Also, methodical approach results in success, and that could be dealing with anything he attempts to do. And this is another aspect where the police were aided. Police are able to obtain evidence from Key. It says the prosecution presented DNA evidence recovered from 6 of his 7 victims that matched Key's. Police obtained Key's DNA from a coffee cup he used while in custody at the time of his February 19th, 1999 arrest. And remember that Venus opposition Mars is them getting that DNA from him drinking the coffee from the coffee cup. That's where the detectives were able to outsmart him. So he has a yacht in his chart that involves Saturn in the South Node in Cancer, and they are forming quincunxes to Jupiter and Neptune, and Jupiter is forming a sextile with Neptune. So this yacht, like yachts basically deal with situations that start off well, or they start off promising, and then end up blowing up in your face, or where all hell breaks loose, or where things fall apart, even though you had good intentions or whatever. So this shows the opportunity / connection. That's Jupiter sextile Neptune. His high degree of intelligence, academic achievement, and delusions of grandeur for the unevolved. So this sextile is another part of his problem because it's showing that, yes, you're highly intelligent, but you're developing these delusions of grandeur as a result. Because remember, Jupiter is included in this yacht, and Mars is squaring Jupiter, which is representing his delusions of grandeur. And like he's smart, and this sextile is showing that, yeah, he's had some opportunities. Maybe he belonged in like gifted and talented, or maybe he was able to go to a summer program for computer geniuses or something at some point. But this just adds fuel to his narcissistic fire, just that sextile alone. And then the struggle. So the struggle is shown with the quincunxes between the Saturn and the South Node and Jupiter and Neptune. So this is the struggle. So his intelligence and academic achievements were not recognized by his parents, and his mother in particular. Parents were distant, detached, and where there was a separation that occurred. So keep this in mind. Remember, we're dealing with a guy that's a cerebral narcissist. He's very smart. He knows he's smart. And that's how his ego gets overinflated because of how smart he is. So imagine you're smart, you're a cerebral narcissist, you have these opportunities. Like he probably was able to go to like space camp or computer camp or something. And then maybe because his mom wasn't in his life like that, Halfers, you cannot have 38 quincunxes and 15 yachts in your chart. There's no way. But anyway, unless you're counting all your asteroids and all that type of stuff, which you shouldn't be doing like that when it comes to the quincunxes and the yachts and all that. But yeah, your life ain't that crazy. But anyway, like I was saying, so imagine he is a cerebral narcissist, thinks he's the shit because he's smart, but your parents aren't acknowledging that. Like the one thing you got going for you, your smarts, your, intelligence, your parents aren't recognizing. They could care less. And that's also shown through that T square involving Mercury and Pluto in Libra, and it's squaring the Capricorn North Node and Cancer South Node. His parents could care less that he was so smart. And as a result, he gets a big chip on his shoulder. and especially in terms of mom in particular. And again, he's projecting the hatred and the resentment that he has for not being recognized for his academic success onto these girls. So I believe this has a lot to do with, well, basically, the yacht first started off with him being separated from his parents. And then next thing you know, he's not being recognized in terms of his aptitude, his academic success. The fallout. He takes his frustration out on girls. Also, this yacht is representing the hotel situation. Police at the hotel, thwarting his escape. Chiron and Aries sesqui-square Neptune and Sagittarius. This aspect can manifest as a brain disorder, especially like a tumor or growth that makes a certain portion of the brain dormant or wonky. This can also represent his use of aliases, which he did use a couple of aliases. Also, he could have been watching violent porn. On December 20th, 2000, a New York jury convicted Key of the slayings of 3 girls and the rapes of 4 others during an 8-year crime spree. Key, 27, faces life without parole in state prison when he is sentenced January 26. Key was charged with murdering 3 Harlem girls between 1991 and 1998. 4 other victims ranging in age from 13 to 15 were raped. So, in terms of numerology, he does have Mercury at the 8th degree of Libra, and that's representing that 8-year crime spree, especially when you take into account Mercury's conjoined to Pluto. And then his South Node is at the 3rd degree of Cancer, which is representing the 3 women that he murdered, or the 3 girls. And then his Saturn is at the 4th degree of Cancer, and this is representing the 4 other girls that were raped by him. So again, this just goes to show that degrees can deal with the number of things, the amount of things, the number of years things have happened, and whatnot. One girl may have been burned alive on a rooftop. So he's like also engaged in like some egregious, like over the top. Remember I said like that Mars square Jupiter could deal with him being over the top, you doing too much, overkill. But I believe this was his way of trying to hide the evidence, I guess. Now, another had her life's breath squeezed out of her, and a third, only 13, was strangled and stabbed 3 times in her bare left breast. The breast. That's the Cancer energy. No mother should have to suffer what the mothers of these 3 murdered teenage girls are suffering on the 12th floor of a lower Manhattan courthouse. So again, the suffering that he is causing these girls and their mothers is represented by this T-square involving Mercury, Pluto, Saturn, and the nodes. And also Venus in Scorpio opposing Mars and Taurus. That's just representing his depravity towards these girls, him basically hunting them down and destroying them. Like that's a search and destroy aspect. If you ever heard that military term, that is a search and destroy aspect. Now, in a bizarre twist, Key testified in his own defense, ignoring his lawyer's advice. He insisted in 2 days of rambling and disjointed testimony that he was innocent of the murders and rapes and accused the police of framing him. Now, the fact that he wanted to be his own lawyer, that's his Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra, thinking he knows better than everybody else. But also the fact that he's accusing the police of framing him, and he's telling these lies that he's innocent of the murders. That's his moon in Gemini opposing Neptune in Sagittarius. This can make him delusional. It could cause him to be in denial, and where he's telling tall tales. Like he's somebody I feel like he doesn't want to admit that he's crazy. He thinks everybody else is crazy. Now, he insisted police arrested him because of the Amadou Diallo shooting in February 4th, 1999, in which police fired 41 shots at an unarmed innocent man. Key's explanation as to how his DNA got on 6 of the 7 victims was that police planted the DNA on the girls, and it had something to do with genetic shuffling. So again, he telling these tall tales. Moon in Gemini opposition Neptune in Sagittarius. And he probably even, like, a part of him wanted to believe that bullshit too. A suspect almost from the time of the Alara slaying, Key managed to evade serious suspicion until early 1999, when he was put under surveillance in the hope that police could gather some form of DNA evidence against him. Their break came soon afterward when Key was detained briefly on theft charges. Though Key refused to voluntarily submit a sample, one was gathered from a cup he used before his release. Again, that's Venus in Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus. He fled New York before the results could link him to his sex crimes, but was apprehended in a Miami hotel a few days later, along with his very lucky 17-year-old girlfriend. So him fleeing is Moon in Gemini opposing Neptune in Sagittarius, like I said before, and that T-square involving the Cancer South Node, Capricorn North Node, is representing him being apprehended by the police. Here he is right here looking all special. The plotting. It says, when led from the courtroom after the verdict, Key shouted towards the spectators, "Fuck all y'all." He apologized for the remark at his sentencing on January 25th, 2001, where he received a 400-year prison term. The fact that he apologized after saying "fuck all y'all," that's his Libra energy all day, because Libra is the sign of apologies. But him basically saying "fuck all y'all," that's that Venus in Scorpio opposing Mars in Taurus. But even that Mercury conjunct Pluto square Saturn, that's saying "fuck all y'all" too. So he has that showing up in a couple of places. So the authorities said the DNA evidence linked Mr. Key to several attacks in Harlem. In January 91, Paola Ilera, a 13-year-old girl who lived in Mr. Key's building, was sexually assaulted, stabbed, and strangled. And then the other two as well. It's basically more of the same. I already talked about this. I was being redundant. The police said they did not know whether the girl had voluntarily gone to Miami with the suspect. They also said they did not know whether she had been assaulted by Mr. Key, but were questioning her last night. Mr. Key, who was convicted of armed robbery in 1991, kept a low profile during his stay in Miami. Only one hotel resident seemed to recall him after his arrest, and that was because Miss Stallings had created a small scene by crying on the street. I asked the girl why she looked so sad. Anton Lawrence said, "She was so teary, but when I asked, she just said she was waiting for him, that he had the key." So that's Moon in Gemini opposing Neptune in Sagittarius. Her being locked out, basically. Now, let's get into the psychology of rapists. So, I'm looking at his lips. He got like he got callus on his lips. Y'all see that? And a booger in his nose. He got like the inside part of his lip is like callus, which makes me think that he's always either sucking on something or chewing on something, or it could be he's always biting like his inside of his lip, or like doing like the, you know how you lick your lips all the time. He probably doing that. Y'all see that callus I'm talking about? But again, even with the callous lip, even with the booger in his nose, he's not a bad looking guy. So again, it's not like he was this monstrous looking individual where he felt like he had to rape women in order to get sex. No, this dude could have basically attracted a lot of females, if you ask me. He's like an average looking, decent looking dude. But obviously, he has issues with power and control, and he has this resentment and hatred of his mother, and he wants all girls to suffer as a result. Cognitive distortions, or CD, are errors in cognition that allow the offender to rationalize and minimize the perceptions and judgments used by the sex offender to justify his molestation behavior. It is said that men hold implicit theories about the nature of the world, which underlie their distorted beliefs, which often drive and justify their rape behavior. The implicit theories proposed for rapists. Wait a minute. The Sacred Art said he actually sold cards detailing his crimes for $19. What? So again, that's Moon and Gemini opposing Neptune and Sagittarius. This cognitive distortion that he's dealing with, where he's not seeing females in a healthy light. Women, so here's more about the psychology of rapists. I think I found this off of Psychology Today. Women are unknowable. Rapists believe that women are fundamentally different from me and therefore cannot be understood. That's very Moon opposition Neptune. Encounters with women will therefore be adversarial, and women will be deceptive about what they really want. An example of such cognitive distortion might be she is dressed in hot pants and her cleavage is visible. This means she wants sex and it is okay for me to have sex with her. When she says no, she actually wants to turn me on further. This just shows you how like twisted some men's minds are. Oh, so he was selling the cards in jail. Again, this arrogance, this narcissism that he has. And that just shows that he's not remorseful at all for what he's done. Moon and Gemini opposing Neptune and Sagittarius. Now, women are sex objects. Again, this is about the psychology of rapists. The cognitive distortion is that women are constantly receptive to men's sexual needs, but are not necessarily always conscious of this. Their body language is more important than what they say, and women cannot be hurt by sexual activity unless they are physically harmed. That is, beaten or punched. An example of this might be when she looks furtively at me when I make lewd comments, she is actually interested in me. So when she says no, she is actually playing with me to turn me on further. So Aaron Key has this issue, and it's represented by his Jupiter in Aquarius, quincunx Saturn, and South Node in Cancer. So it's like he has this, basically this need to connect with women, but he can't. And again, it stems back from his inability to connect with his mom, which wasn't his fault back in the day. But dealing with women, he's still having this hard time connecting. So he might be getting some, what he thinks are intuitive messages from these women or girls, basically saying, oh yeah, I want you to come attack me or whatever. But this basically deals with objectification of females. Opportunistic rapists. So more from the psychology of rapists. So you got different types of rapists. You got one that's an opportunistic rapist. Offenses are unplanned and impulsive, and immediate sexual gratification is sought, with force used as necessary. Offenses are driven largely by immediate antecedent events, situational factors, rather than personal psychopathology. For example, late night, lone, isolated female, no witnesses around. Sexual assault is one of many instances of poor impulse control. So I believe that Aaron Key was somewhat of an opportunistic rapist, especially if he wouldn't have got caught. I think he would have become more of an opportunistic rapist, where any young girl he sees that he wanted to, that he became attracted to, he would have jumped on if nobody was looking eventually. But I don't think that was everything dealing with him. I don't think he was just an opportunistic rapist. I think he was also an anger rapist, because when he was raping these girls, he was raping them both vaginally and anally. So he wanted to cause them pain. Anger rapist. His offense is driven by extreme gratuitous aggression, severe violence, and a history of previous antisocial offending. Serious physical injury to the victim is caused. Now, it was one incident, like one of the girls that was able to get away. I think she was only like 13, and he had raped her vaginally and anally. And when she was screaming out in pain when he was raping her anally, he said, "Shut up and take it like a woman." What a piece of shit. But yeah, that's why I'm saying he also falls under the anger rapist category, because he was basically inflicting pain on these girls, and he had, no sensitivity towards them. And he's basically taking his anger that he has for his mother out on these girls. So he has Venus conjunct the asteroid Toro in Scorpio, and Toro can deal with toxic masculinity, hyper masculinity, macho type of behavior, abusive behavior, and basically it's just, like I said, toxic masculinity. So it's just showing that he was using aggression, he was using a lot of anger, violence when he was raping these girls. Thank you, Kauai. Yeah, I try to be thorough because I love psychology. So I always try to incorporate the psychology part. So there's also what is called a sexual rapist, and I believe he fits this category as well. He is driven by preoccupation with sexual fantasies and urges, and is best captured by the diagnosis of paraphilia, not otherwise specified. And again, I believe part of the reason why he was raping was out of anger towards his mother, but also sexual frustration, or, strong sexual urges that he feels like he can't control. And you can kind of see by the look of his victims. He was targeting victims that had a certain look. You'll have other rapists where they don't care what their victim looks like. They just want to rape somebody because it's more driven from anger or like sadism than actual like sexual drive. So I believe he's a bit of an opportunistic rapist. I believe he's also the anger rapist and also a bit of the sexual rapist as well. So Venus opposition Mars and Taurus is representing him being a sexual rapist, like where he's scoping these women out, he's targeting these women. I keep saying women, but they're more so girls. I guess it's, to even say girls is like, damn, like, wow. I mean, it's bad enough you rape women, but you're raping girls. Their life is just beginning, and you're taking it away from them. Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra, squaring Saturn and Cancer South Node. So again, that Mercury conjunct Pluto can show that sex is often on his mind, and that causes him to act out and harm these women. And then you have the sexually sadistic rapist, which I feel like kind of goes hand in hand with the anger rapist. So it says the motivation for this rapist is not sexual, but fantasies of degradation and humiliation of, and power and control over the victim, best captured by the diagnosis of sexual sadism in the DSM-4 TR. So I feel like he's also the sexually sadistic rapist because, like I said, he wasn't just vaginally raping these girls, he was raping them anally. And I do believe that that was the sadistic part of him. And you can see the sadistic part through he got that Saturn conjoined to the Capricorn South Node. So that can mean that he's sadistic towards women naturally. And he could have been in a past life. So again, Mercury and Pluto in Libra squaring Saturn and South Node in Cancer. So basically, I feel like he fits all the categories of a rape of those different rapists, but to like certain degrees. Now, several studies show that rapists experience multiple early life adversities, such as sexual abuse, physical abuse, and dysfunctional family relations, which are likely to affect capacities for secure attachments and developing healthy adult relationships. Such experiences create deficits of intimacy with insensitive and aloof interpersonal styles and dismissive attachment, characterized by hostility to, suspicion of, and unempathic and callous attitudes towards attachment figures. So this is dealing with the T-square involving Mercury, Pluto, and the nodes, and then also the T-square involving Venus, Mars, and Jupiter. Because remember, I spoke about that dismissive attachment that is being shown through his Mars in Taurus squaring Jupiter in Aquarius. And then also his moon opposition Neptune. Again, that could just deal with where he is just so far gone in terms of what a woman really is that he can't connect to women. And he might even have this fear of women, or he just wants to shame them, humiliate them, what have you. But this is also just representing his upbringing and how he had a dysfunctional, or you could say an upbringing that wasn't conducive to his well-being, especially this T-square involving Mercury, Pluto, and the nodes. And then, like I said, that moon opposition Neptune, that's him being abandoned by his mother. Dealing with rejection. Also on the Psychology of Rapists, it says, what does rejection have to do with rape? One of the reasons a man could rape a woman is to make up for the rejection he felt earlier by the opposite sex. And the first rejection he felt from the opposite sex was his own mother. By overpowering someone from the opposite sex, the man can feel relieved of the shame of rejection. You might be wondering why a man who was rejected by a woman rapes another one. But when you know that the subconscious mind believes that people who share certain similarities are the same person, so his mother is the same as these girls, then everything will become clear. You might fall in love with a woman just because she looks like a woman you loved before, and the same goes for rape. A man can rape a woman just because she resembles a woman who rejected her earlier or rejected him earlier. So again, the same T-square, Mercury and Pluto and Libra squaring Saturn and the South Node in Cancer. The first way it played out was him being rejected by his mother and his father as well, when you add in the Capricorn North Node. But then now he has this fear of being rejected by women. So what does he do to alleviate that fear? He basically rapes these girls. Remember, I said the same T-square is dealing with, he's not giving these girls a choice in whether they want to copulate with him. He's just taking it. And also Venus and Scorpio opposing Mars and Taurus. This is a rejection or a potential rejection aspect as well. So it's like the Venus and Scorpio is representing a girl that could reject him. And then here he is with his Mars and Taurus, and he rather operate solely through this Mars and Taurus, where he's preying on these girls instead of taking the risk of being rejected. And again, he's a narcissist. So in his mind, nobody should reject him, but he's going to ensure that he doesn't get rejected by taking it. More about the psychology of rapists. Feeling superior to women. That's his Venus opposing Mars all day. All men want to feel superior to women, but some of them fall prey to low self-confidence issues, which forces them to believe that they are inferior to women. In such a case, the shame becomes unbearable, and those men start to find another way to feel superior. And remember, I said that moon opposition Neptune can also deal with where he has like this fear of females. And then the Venus opposition Mars, that's like if he's really embodying that Mars side, he's going to feel like he's superior to females. Now, sane men will usually find a healthy path to gain superiority, such as building self-confidence or succeeding in life, while other men who are too scared to do this might start taking a shortcut, which is raping women to feel superior. And he has those aspects in his chart, namely Venus opposition Mars, where he has to feel superior to women. Here it is right here, Venus opposition Mars. And that's why I was telling you in the beginning, like, that's a red flag. Like, if you meet a guy, for women out there, you meet a guy, and even gay men, y'all might want to you listen to this too. You meet a guy and he got Venus opposition Mars in his chart, just be careful and really observe this person. You might even want to do an extensive background check on them, but really observe this person in action. It's not so much about what they say, it's their actions. And tread carefully, because this person, like, again, number one, this is just showing you that the person does not, like, they're just naturally geared to not be in a healthy relationship. And especially not one that's balanced. There's going to be this imbalance of power. You know, some people don't mind because they could be in a dominant submissive type of relationship. You know, the BSDM relationship, some people actually carry that whole theme outside of the bedroom. So throughout the day, you got one of the partners being the dom, the other partner being the sub. That's like that opposition. One's being the dom, the other person's being the sub. You got to decide who's going to be what. But some people don't like that type of relationship. But that's just, again, something to keep in mind if you meet someone in the future and they have that Venus opposition Mars. Freya says sounds like incels. Yeah, it does. Yes. Yes, you could say this guy is an incel. That's a good way to look at things. And you know, that word incel, that's more for the younger generation. Like, this was after my time. Like, I only started hearing the word incel, I would say maybe 5 years ago. And then I learned what it meant, and I was like, oh, okay, those are incels. Okay. And incels are basically toxic boys and men that have no confidence, have no game. A lot of times they're unattractive. A lot of times they're out of shape. A lot of times they're like gamers, like they're addicted to video gaming and stuff like that. And they have a horrible outlook on women. But yeah, he's an incel. That's basically what he is. Yup. And I did say, I remember having a conversation with my daughter about those incels, and I was like, they sound potentially dangerous because they be speaking with so much hatred towards women, so much resentment towards women. All right, so I also went on Quora because sometimes you could get some good information off of the Quora website. So I think I put in something like the mind of a rapist or something like that. And I found this page, and it says rapists can have 10 reasons to rape. Most reasons of rape can be summarized as revenge. Some men rape women in order to take revenge from that specific woman, from a woman who resembles her, or from women in general. And before I go on, let me just put it out there that, of course, women aren't the only victims of rape. You have men and boys that are victims of rape as well. So we also need to consider them as well. And basically, the rapist who's raping boys and men, it's the same reasonings, but it could be stemming from a bad relationship with their father instead of their mother. Like, I think, was it John Wayne Gacy who was like that? Yeah, because remember, John Wayne Gacy's father was calling him a sissy boy, and he was basically saying, you're weak, and all this type of stuff. And then John Wayne Gacy ended up raping and killing young males. So revenge. Some men rape women in order to take revenge from that specific woman, from a woman who resembles her, or from women in general. Let's suppose that a man had a very tough boss who happened to be a woman. In such a case, that man will feel ashamed because his manhood is threatened by a woman, and as a result, he might feel like wanting to rape a woman who resembles her in order to feel good. Some people wonder, why do some men rape old women who are above 60 or even 70? But when they know that the raper picks a target who resembles someone he already knows, then the mystery will disappear. Mercury and Pluto in Libra square Saturn and South Node in Cancer. So again, this is where the revenge could be coming from. And again, he really wants to take revenge upon his mother, but he knows he can't, so he goes after these girls. Rape is a heinous expression of dominance. A rapist believes that he or she can command dominance over his or her victim by infringing upon their victim's right to have the freedom to decide whom they want to have sex with. That's the epitome of that T-square that I'm talking about, with his Mercury conjunct Pluto in Libra, square in Saturn in the South Node in Cancer, and square in that Capricorn North Node. But yeah, he's making sure that these girls don't have a choice, that they don't have a chance to reject him. The society perceives having sex as losing virginity or losing the right to be called pure. A rapist sees rape as an act of robbing the victim of their purity and dignity. And remember, he has Sun in Virgo, sesqui square Mars in Taurus. That's him wanting to destroy what is pure, destroying virginity, chastity, what have you. Sun in Virgo, sesqui square Mars. Now, rape is far more than a physical act. It is driven by the desire to shame the victim and reduce them from a human to an object. Worse, surveyed rapists say that raping a victim gives them a feeling of power and control. Moon in Gemini opposing Neptune in Sagittarius, basically him wanting to shame females, but then also the issues with power and control is dealing with that T-square involving Mercury, Pluto, and the nodes as well. All right, let's get into some of his asteroids. He has Moon opposition Juno. This is showing where he brought the teenage girl with him to the hotel when he was fleeing the authorities. And that was considered to be his girlfriend, so that's the Juno reference. So it says officers also found a 16-year-old girl. Now that's where there's discrepancy. So some reports are saying she was 16. Other reports were saying she was 17. It says officers also found a 16-year-old girl in another part of the 6th floor. Crowley identified her as Angelique Stallings, who had been missing since she went out on a Valentine's Day date with Key. Keep in mind Valentine's Day. Sun contra parallel veritas. He struggles to come to terms with the truth of his crimes. And that could be because he's a Virgo, and Virgo, they know when they're doing wrong. Like, they know they need to stay on the straight and narrow. And to maintain that clean-cut image, he's going to lie, basically. Mercury conjunct veritas. This is basically him saying the oath in court. I promise to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Mercury is representing the oath, and veritas is representing the truth. And it's in Libra, which is the court. Venus conjunct Toro. Remember, I talked about this aspect when we were talking about his violent tendencies towards women and how he was inflicting pain upon them as he's raping them. So this can deal with violent rape, aggression towards women. Venus parallel Urania. Could have been hearing voices from demons that egged him on or assisted his crimes. I mean, he does have Mercury conjunct Pluto, which can mean that his mind is prone to demonic attachment. Like, there could be some demonic entities whispering in his ear, or a demon on his shoulder trying to tell him to do this, do that. And then this Venus parallel Urania, because Urania could deal with where you're getting this specialized knowledge or information, and it could be coming out from out there, like in the ether somewhere, but you don't know where it's really coming from. You just hear certain things, or you know certain things. Mars parallel Eurydice. A lot of times Eurydice is an asteroid that will show up in a serial killer's chart, because murder is a big theme with Eurydice, as well as stalking is a big theme. So he's stalking girls like the satyr in the myth, dealing with Eurydice. But he's also playing the role of the viper that bit Eurydice's foot and resulted in her dying. Jupiter opposing Hebe, believing he is entitled to love from youths. So Hebe deals with youths. And you often see Hebe in the charts of pedophiles. So I wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't caught that he would have started to, maybe like when it came to like his relatives, his, some people in his family, like he might have started to prey upon them. Jupiter conjunct Salacia. So Salacia is basically dealing with salacious things. So in his case, salacious beliefs and the salacious court testimony, because of course they had to go into detail about the rape and what he was doing and all that type of stuff. Jupiter parallel Terpsichore. Terpsichore is dealing with like body language, but also dancing. But this could deal with where he believes that the body language of the girls that he raped were signaling him to have their way with him, even though this was all in his twisted mind. Pluto contraparallel Hygeia. And this could deal with issues with sexual health and hygiene. I hope one of the girls did not catch a STD that survived, but they might have dealing with this piece of shit. Could represent his DNA being found on one of his victims via a rape kit. Pluto parallel Valentine. Being rejected by a love interest with Pluto ruling rejection could have been the catalyst for the activation of his latent rape tendencies. But this also deals with the fact that he was suspected of taking this girl because he had taken her out on a date for Valentine's Day. So Pluto parallel Valentine is representing this. Officers also found a 16-year-old girl in another part of the 6th floor. Crowley identified her as Angelique Stallings, who had been missing since she went out on a Valentine's Day date with Key. So that Pluto parallel Valentine is representing that. And then even with it being at the 4th degree of Virgo, Virgo rules the cops. So that's like the cops taking notice once they found out that the girl went on a date, Valentine's date with Key. And then Chiron contraparallel Echo. So I'm looking at this as a repeat after me aspect, because sometimes he will have his victims say things to him like, I love you, which is basically representing his narcissism. So it wasn't bad enough that he's raping these girls, but he also wants them to talk to him and repeat after him and say, I love you. And oh my God, you are so great. And I'm really enjoying this and stuff. He would have had to kill me. Moon parallel Alcyone. So now we're going to get into some of his stars. Ambition, honor, glory. So, these could have came into play when it came to like his computer science and all that. But this also brings trouble with the opposite sex. And you'll see Alcyone show up in quite a few serial killers' charts. Homosexuality is another theme that comes with Alcyone. So I was wondering when I saw this, I was like, was he also raping to basically overcompensate for his lack of masculinity, like feeling like he might have been gay? And I think some men do that. Disgrace, which he definitely is. Bereavement, loss, sorrow, which is what the victims' families were dealing with. Moon conjunct Tabit. Tabit deals with being strong, dignified, having self-confidence, which he definitely had. Inconstancy, arrogance. He was definitely arrogant. Violence, impiety, danger of treachery and poison. Sun conjunct Lebrun. Lebrun brings forth honors, ambition, psychic ability, but also chronic illness and dishonest income. That dishonest income is dealing with him being a thief. Mercury, and he robbed one of the girls that he raped and killed. Mercury parallel Stella Mira. Stella Mira could deal with prudence, perseverance, versatility, having a progressive spirit, problem-solving ability, but also failures, fiascos, enmity, melancholy, and suicide. He might have contemplated suicide, especially once he got locked up. Venus conjunct Kambalia. This pertains to deep research of any kind, which can pertain to his computer science, police investigations, which apply to him, espionage and esoteric subjects, secret life, which he definitely had until he got caught, spiritual life. He probably became a Muslim in prison, which is so typical. Mars conjunct Asha. Asha produces a love of knowledge, science, much travel, and many changes. Jupiter conjunct Gietta Prima. Beneficence, peculiar events, love affairs. Saturn conjunct Tejat Posterior. Force, energy, power, protection. Uranus conjunct Foramen. Foramen can manifest as peril, dignity, and piety. Neptune conjunct Talitha. Quiet, prudent, suspicious, distrustful, self-control, great anger when roused. Neptune conjunct Marfiq, passionate, easily seduced. Neptune parallel Castra, destructiveness, uncontrollable temper, and malevolence. Pluto conjunct Zenaya, order, congeniality, lovable nature, refinement, honor, money, love, adultery, and prostitution. Chiron parallel Altair, sudden but ephemeral fortune, impulsiveness, courage, accidents, strong passions, indomitable will, a dominating character, clairvoyance, penetrating mind. North Node conjoined to Polis, martial desires, or, wanting to fight, basically, warlike desires, high ambitions, domination, keen perception, success, truthfulness, and spiritual power. South Node parallel Hamal, violence, cruelty, brutality. South Node and Saturn conjunct Propux, overconfidence, which he definitely had, pride, shamelessness, and violence. South Node parallel at Hafera, crime, lying, stealing, and suicide. So when it came to the transits that were going down with the first murder, says Aaron Key began his New York City spree of rape and murder, as far as anyone knows, on January 24th, 1991, when he killed 13-year-old Paolo Ilera. So transiting Jupiter in Leo was squaring his Mars in Taurus, which is a transit that could have really created this overwhelming feeling that he needed to basically do something that could have resulted in somebody getting hurt. So this transit doesn't say rape, but it could show that he was really lacking self-control during that time. And he was filled with this overwhelming feeling of, you could either say lust, attraction, desire, whatnot. Also, transiting Pluto was in quincunx with his Aries. So this is the aspect I'm saying where he could have been dealing with some rejection, and that could have turned him to the left. That could have basically hardened him, and now he wants to hurt people as a result. And this could deal with very strong, almost irresistible sexual urges that he's dealing with, that he ends up acting out. And then transiting Sun in Aquarius, sextile Neptune and Sagittarius, that could just represent his opportunity, or him seeing an opportunity to commit rape and murder because the girl was probably isolated, or he isolated her. On September 13, 1997, Key did the same to Johalis Castro, 19, before burning her body beyond recognition. Oh, this is just more of those same stories. On February 19, 1999, Miami police arrested a 25-year-old man who was looked in New York by at least a murder, and I guess looked for. I guess they got that messed up. So these are the transits dealing with when he got arrested. So Neptune was on his Jupiter, and that deals with him fleeing to Miami, hiding out, and then later on his imprisonment. Transiting Mars in Scorpio, opposing Mars in Taurus. This is representing the manhunt, the investigation, the raid, and him being under surveillance. Transiting Chiron in Sagittarius, quincunx Saturn in Cancer, South Node. Basically him leaving New York with the girl. Transiting Moon conjunct Chiron in Aries. So he got arrested around 7 p.m. in the evening. So around that time, the moon was right on his Chiron in Aries, and this is him being held at gunpoint by the cops. And the transiting midheaven was right on his moon in Gemini, and this was during the time of the arrest. And this is him being questioned by authorities once they found him. So that concludes my reading on Aaron Key. Let me know what you think in the comment section and in the chat. Again, just to summarize, I believe that Aaron Key's reasonings for becoming a rapist and a murderer were multifaceted. The underlying reason, I believe, was his mother, him having an unhealthy relationship with his mother, mom not really being there for him when he was young. With him being a Virgo, he took that very hard, and that basically screwed him up for the rest of his life. He's dealing with anger and resentment and hatred towards his mother that he ends up projecting onto these girls. But he's also dealing with sexual tension, sexual frustration, and he has this huge ego. He's a huge narcissist, and he doesn't want to be rejected. So instead of taking the chance that he might be rejected, he goes ahead and ends up just taking it, raping these girls. So I believe you could say his reasoning was twofold. The underlying reasoning, hatred towards his mother, but then he has this other reasoning where he has this huge ego. He doesn't believe he should ever be rejected when it comes to his sexual urges, and that enables him to just rape girls. So yeah, thank you, Jupiter. But yeah, you're welcome, Essie. But yeah, I hope that I was able to help you to gain some understanding, Essie, of this guy and like the energy that he's working with and all that. And again, he's one of those serial killers that can basically blend in with society, be quite unassuming until he gets sloppy. If you notice, a lot of them end up getting sloppy. And from what I've read, it's because they get tired and they want to get caught eventually because they just get burnt out. And that is so indicative of a mutable sign. Like they'll just continue to go down a certain path until they get burnt out or until they get stopped by an outside force. In Aaron Key's case, he got stopped by an outside force, but eventually he probably would have burnt out and started to get real sloppy and would have ended up shooting his own self in the foot. But yeah, this was an interesting story. I had never heard about Aaron Key before. So it was interesting to read about him and learn about this story and stuff. And like I said, while I was preparing for this reading, I did want to get inside the mind of a rapist and be like, what makes them the way they are? And so it was really good, like just getting the breakdown of the different rapists and why they do what they do. And I'm just saying, men, y'all gotta do better. I know the male viewers that are on my channel ain't rapists and all this type of stuff, but I'm just like, man, y'all taking L's all over the place. But that's how that Mars energy is. Like it's impulsive energy. It's energy that really doesn't have self-control. Like you really gotta have, like if you got a strong Mars, you really need a strong Saturn as well in your chart to keep that Mars in line. Because that's what's wrong with a lot of these men. They got very strong Mars in their chart, but the Saturn could be lacking. And that's why they might be good in bed, but in all other areas of life, they just fall short. That's been my experience dealing with guys that are good in bed, but then they're just failures in all other areas of life. And I'm just like, yeah, whatever. I'm just like, but then you get with the guy that is a success, he's making good money, and he can't get it up, or he got a small one, or whatever. It's like, is there any happy medium? I mean, I still believe that there's some women that are going to be able to get what they want at the end of the day, but I know I have given up. But yeah. Oh, Kauai, I think I'm kind of too tired to be doing questions. But actually, I'll make an exception for you. So go ahead. What's your question? Yeah, very unassuming at first glance. And you could tell like he could have made, a really good life for himself if he would have had a different upbringing. I mean, he still probably would have been an asshole, but he probably went on resorted to raping and killing women if his mom was in his life and stuff like that. I gotta turn my fan on. So if y'all hear this wind blowing, it's my fan. I'm sorry. It's hot in here. Jupiter said, I have very bad luck with men. I'm better off with women. Sometimes it bees like that. But even these lesbian relationships, don't get me started. Lord have mercy. I be hearing it all. Oh, you did? Thank you so much for your super chat. Oh, yeah, you can put in a super chat. But I think I can only deal with one question tonight because I'm kind of tired and I still got to run to the store. What else was I going to talk to y'all about while I'm waiting for Kauai? I do got some more sponsored videos coming up, so stay tuned. I'm trying to think of the next one I have. I think it's an aspect. The next video I'll be doing will be about one of the aspects. And then the next one, I think, will be another aspect. And then I'll be doing one about this one female that lost her mind. And then a few more. So, yeah, I got my work cut out for me. King Jason said, can you please do a video about what placements can make someone homophobic? Oh, that's a good one. Now, if you want, you can also always sponsor that video because I don't know when I'm going to get to that video, King Jason. And I have my email in the description section of this video, so you can email me and we could talk about you sponsoring the video. Because if I just put it on my to-do list, which is very long, it might take 2 years before I get to that video if I'm working on my time. But if you do the sponsored video, I'll have it on my sponsored video list, so I'll be able to do it much sooner. So yeah, if you want me to do that video on that, I could definitely do that. Send me an email so we could talk about the sponsorship. All right, thank you, Kauai, for the super chat. You said, will I get this position I have been training for? All right. Hell yeah, that Saturn helps to keep you in line, Avis. Are you the one that sent me the Cash App donation? If so, thank you so much. Because I don't think I have your email. Mm-mm-mm. Mm-mm-mm. Okay. So I got the Nine of Swords followed by the Queen of Wands. So that's a good indication that you're going to get this job. So just know that it looks like with that Nine of Swords, the interview process could be rather rigorous. Like they could be, really putting you through the ringer. But if you're able to make it through that, it looks like you will be able to get that job. You know what, Mystics? I have a video about red flags and deal breakers dealing with men, but I don't have one dealing with them being misogynistic in general. That would be a really good topic. So if you would like to sponsor a video, my email is in the description section. So you can send me an email and we could talk about sponsoring a video. But I do want to put on a workshop just for women where we could really dig deep into the astrology of men, where you can make better choices with men. So I might be doing that before the summer is over because I feel like it's needed. And you're welcome. And sometimes, what's the word? What was I going to say? Sometimes you have to be very black and white about stuff just so you don't give somebody too much leeway. Because I made that mistake back in the past where I wasn't black and white about certain aspects that I saw in a man's chart, and I ended up regretting it. And some people, they think I'm too negative, but when I see certain stuff and I know how it's going to play out, and then I stick my head in the sand and be like, oh, it's going to be okay, or it's not going to be that bad, it ends up being that bad. That's why I'm just like, I'm gonna continue to be negative. No, I mean, I'm not negative. I just keep it real. But some people see it as me being negative, or I'm always talking trash about this sign or that sign. And I'm all like, but I mean, honestly, would you really want to hear all the good all the time, all the, flowers and the candy and all that type of stuff? And I'm not ever telling you the real about what could go wrong. And then when things do go wrong, now you're looking at me like, how come you never talked about that side of Scorpio? How come you never talked about that side of Sagittarius? Well, I didn't know that they could be like that. Y'all really don't need help with the positive side of things, because there's tons of videos and websites and stuff all over where they'll tell you about how great Leos are, how great Gemini is, and how wonderful Sagittarius is. But if you want the real about how these signs can be bad, yeah, come to my channel, because I'm going to give you the real. And not just because, oh, this is something theoretical. This is stuff I've seen time after time. After doing I've done so many charts, I can't even count. So it's like, I'm not pulling this stuff out of my ass. I've seen it happen with real people in real time. So I know how some of these energies play out. So why would I just be sugarcoating things and beating around the bush and just telling people what they want to hear? Because guess what? They're going to come back to me and be like, you never told me that this person could be like that. And I saw that they had this square in their chart. And I'm just like, I'd rather give somebody the real, and they may not like the message at first. But when they see that shit actually play out in real life, then they'll come back and be like, damn, you did say. Well, there's been quite a few times where I've done synastries for a client, right? And I don't hear from them at all. And I know why, because they don't like what I said about their boyfriend, or they didn't like what I said about the relationship. And then maybe a year later, 2 years later, what do? They contact me and they were like, remember you did that synastry for me? Yeah, you were right. Yeah, he was like this, and just like how you said, he did this and he did that. And I'm like, uh-huh. Sometimes it takes a while for you to actually see things manifest. I can see everything up front. You can. So what I might see, I might be saying, oh yeah, he's like this, he's like that, he's like that. You're 4 months into the relationship. Of course, you're not going to see what I see. Sometimes it takes a year, sometimes it takes 2 years, sometimes it takes 5 years for all of those aspects in the synastry to manifest, and for you to be thumped over your head a number of times, where now you see what I was talking about. So again, I much rather give people the real than give them this false sense of hope or confidence, believing, oh, at the end of the day, oh yeah, there's somebody great for you and all this type of stuff. I'll be the first astrologer to tell a client, look, you just don't have good luck in the love department. And I'll say it just like that. And most of them appreciate my approach because it's stuff they already feel anyway. And then they'll be like, yeah, no relationship I've been in has worked out well. And like, or I get with a guy and it only lasts 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you got this and you got that and you got that in your chart. Why should we continue to pretend and act like things that are there aren't really there? Like, once I stopped pretending with my own self and my own chart, my life got better. It got easier. Like, once I was able to acknowledge, you know what? I'm not a relationship oriented person, even though I thought I was, even though I wanted to be in a relationship for so long. I wanted to be married when I was younger and stuff. I'm not really a relationship oriented person. So I had to stop really putting it on the men I was choosing. I had to turn the mirror around and look at myself and say, you know what? It's me at the end of the day. And that's why I'm choosing these suckers. That's why I'm choosing these lowlights, because I really don't want that full on long-term commitment that other people have, even though it looks nice from the outside looking in. I'm just not wired that way to really be happy 50 years with a marriage or 20 years or whatever. And that's just me. But know that your chart knows you more than you know yourself. And the more you study your chart, the more you get into it, and especially studying it from a point of realism where you're being realistic about the energy you're working with, then your life becomes easier. The more you fight your chart, or the more you say, oh yeah, I know I got Venus square Mars, but I still believe that I'm going to find the right mate and he's going to give me everything I want and treat me right. And then you get all upset because that doesn't happen. You just got to be real. The more real you are and the more you accept, okay, I got these limitations, but you know what? I could still be happy. I could still enjoy my life. That's the whole purpose. Jupiter said, deep down, I always knew that a traditional life is not for me. And yeah, and I honestly believe if it's meant to be, it will happen. And for some people, it's not meant to be until they're in their 50s. Like I was telling this one client today, I was like, you got this hookup in your chart. You really need to be with a guy that's older than you. What did she say? Oh, yeah, I usually, back in the day, I used to date guys that were older than me. But I ended up marrying this guy that was younger than me. But now she gets it. And it takes an astrologer sometimes to basically make things click, like, oh, now I see, I understand. And that's basically the best we can do in life, is just gain that understanding of who we are, what we're working with, blessings and curses, or you could call them limitations, and act accordingly. Otherwise, we're just going to be setting ourselves up for failure and disappointment. And I'm done with failing at life. I'm all about winning at this point. And if winning means being single for the rest of my life, for me in particular, I'm perfectly fine with that. I really am. And I'm going to leave you with that. Oh, no, I was talking about somebody that was talking about they were married. I've never been married. See what I mean? I'll be 49 this year, never been married. If being married was really meant to be for me, I would have been married. You get what I'm saying? But I've never been married. And again, that's when I have to turn the mirror around and look at myself and be like, there's something in me that doesn't want to be married, or that is just not built for marriage. And that's sometimes what you got to look at, for all of you single women out there and you've never been married and you think you should be married. And if you get to a certain age, ask yourself, what is it about you? And if you need help, get a reading, because I can help you. I can help you understand. What is it about you where marriage has not happened for you, even though that's something you really want? Maybe it's something that the universe knows you don't need. Maybe the universe or your ancestors or your angels, they're trying to save you from a lot of heartache and pain. The sacred artist said, married to work, astrology. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I am married to my work and I love it. But not everybody can be like that. Some people really need to be in relationships. So I'm also not the type of astrologer or spiritual advisor where I'm like, oh, I want you to be like how I am. That's another thing. And I got to get ready and go. But I noticed some YouTube content creators are like that. Like they have a message that they want to send out to the world, or let's say women in particular, and they want all the women to do what they do. Like there's one in particular, she thinks that all women should be lesbians like her. And I'm like, to each his own. Like not every woman is going to be able to walk away from men and be in a successful lesbian relationship. A lot of women don't even want to be with a woman like that. So what are you talking about? So when I talk to my clients, I'm not saying, oh, you should just be happy and be single. Because if I see in their chart that they're more relationship oriented, or that they would do better being with somebody than being by themselves, I tell them that. But I also tell them, look, you got these challenges and this is how you can overcome it. Or I'll be like, you know what? I can see you getting married, but it might take a number of years and stuff like that. So I don't want to I don't try to push my preferences or my lifestyle onto anybody else, because I know a lot of people can't or don't want to be alone. I'm fine with it. Oh, thank you, Sacred Artist. Oh, Blazing, no, I'm not talking about Cynthia G. Because I don't think Cynthia G is a lesbian. She's not at all. And what's so funny is there's a lot of Leo content creators, because I know Cynthia G is a Leo. There's some other ones that are Leos, and I'm just like, that's so funny. But you know, Leo is out in front a lot of times, center stage, gotta be the leader, all that. But are you you were considering Cynthia G for a sponsored reading? Kawhi said, wasn't Cynthia G pregnant with some guy's child? Yeah, I don't know what happened to that, because I remember it was like a year later. I'm trying to listen to hear a baby crying in the background. I'm like, what happened to that pregnancy? But yeah, she got pregnant and we never heard anything else about it. But yeah, I'm not talking about Cynthia G. I'm talking about another one. And some of y'all should know who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to mention, because I'm not going to talk about somebody else like that. But I just think it's funny how some, they expect you to, they want you to follow their lifestyle because they believe they have all the answers. Yeah, Trey. Yeah, that's the one. They believe they have all the answers and they have the solution, but I'm like, different people require different solutions. But yeah. Oh, you're saying no, the one you were referring. Oh, so you know who I'm talking about too. Yeah. And how there's some drama dealing with her right now and the ex-girlfriend and all that. It just got messy. And it made me kind of sad too, because I was kind of touching on this with the last live stream about how, you know, we got these content creators and it's like they're strong women, but then you have this infighting between them and stuff like that, and it's just not a good look. And then the men, they look in on us and they're like, look at them, they can't even get along with each other and all this type of stuff. So it's just bad. It does not look good. Stop playing, she's a yeah, you're gonna have to get into my email, Essie, and give me the, because I don't even have the birth information. I need to get that birth information so I could check it out. Oh yeah. I've seen a few of Yanni's videos. Yeah. All right, let me go before things get messy up in here, because now y'all putting names out there and I'm not trying to get pulled into this YouTube drama. Because these people, they will find out that you were talking about this person, and next thing you know, they're gonna pull you into the drama, and I'm not for it. I'll watch on the sidelines, but I don't want to be participating in the game itself. But yeah, but let me get out of here. And but yeah, I got my opinions on that one. I really do. And I will say this. Some of her talking points are really good and make a lot of sense, but sometimes she goes a little too far, and I'm like, I can't go to that extreme. So yeah. But thank you everybody for attending this live stream. Thank you, Essie, for sponsoring this live. And like I said, I really learned a lot about, you know, these crazy creeps just by doing the reading. So thank you for that. Stay tuned for more videos. And like I said before, I want to try to be more consistent with doing lives, at least on Saturday nights. So hopefully I'll be able to go live next Saturday night, and maybe next Saturday night we'll make it more of like a fun topic, and you know, just get a little crazy and act a little stupid and stuff like that. But everybody enjoy the rest of their weekend.